This video contains subject matter that may be offensive and disturbing to some people. If you are the type to require a warning throughout a video or show, let this message serve as your warning. This channel discusses the harsh reality of true crime. If this warning is not sufficient for you, consider a different genre and unsubscribe from my channel immediately. What the hell's going on, everybody? Got some crazy stuff going on. The banner for CrimeCon, a FedEx, forget it, boring. Let's see. Yeah, I like that better. All right, you guys. Yeah, well, Chasing had the banner shipped to me, and then FedEx came outside, and the guy was outside for like 10 minutes, and he was looking around. He couldn't find it in there. But apparently, maybe it's on a different truck or something, but he couldn't find whatever it was that was supposed to be delivered. So, I don't know. Anyhow, tonight we've got about 8 days left in the month, and we're trying to, keep up the same pace. Yesterday was, was one of our better days, but got better right at the end there. I don't want to have to keep pressing the horn, because tonight we're going to be doing I Can See You, Lane S. See, there you are. I don't think you've ever been hidden on here. I'm not sure what made you think that. Yeah. I just kind of came on. There's also something else. The sub count thing up there wasn't working, and then you have to use this interact thing because it uses a Google website, and you have to sign in, and then it said, hey, you don't have your code. And then I was like, well, how the hell do I get a code? And then I tried a different option, and it sent me off to some website where you get the code, and I put it in, and boom, there it worked. At the last minute. I got to get some stuff set up because I didn't have time. So. Come on. All right, there we go. All right, so just like normal on this channel, the super chats, y'all get your names put in at the end. You might win a mug or a tumbler, and the money goes to help supporting me do what I do every single day, plus the charities at the during the month and at the end of the month. All right. So, but sometimes I always wonder. So one of the reasons it's almost impossible to switch over to doing this full time is because of the uncertainty. You can have 500 people watching, and not one person in like an hour would think of sending in a super chat, and that's the only way there's income made on this channel. The ad revenue is nothing. It's like $3,000 a year, maybe. Absolutely ridiculous. And so it's all it has to be like you guys thinking about doing that. All right, that's the thing. That's the only thing that makes it work. Or PayPal, whatever the hell works. But that's one of the things that it's hard to do as a creator is mention that, because it feels stupid. It feels like people should just think of it, but instead you got to mention it, because if you don't mention it, people don't remember. They're just having fun doing. Wow, that looks weird. Almost looked like that was that like the eyes are the dog's eyes or something. Yeah. So thank you to Kathy Freidenmaker. Yeah. Kind of, there'd be big eyeballs though. Yeah, but it was pretty cool on Chasing's channel. They brought up like I actually figured out we've donated $79,625 since 2020, and I know the year before we sent some in, but there wasn't really the push that we do now. I think it was a couple thousand or something, but I don't remember what that was. So we're just going from 2020, $79,625 to crime-related charities and the DNA Fund. That's pretty crazy. Pretty crazy. Well, it's all from all of you guys, though. That's the thing. Hey, Jeannie Heights, would you wait till we get going on it, though? Thank you. Can you fill me in? What the hell are you talking about? We just started the show. Why don't you wait a few minutes? All right. Thank you to Alley Cake. Yeah, we'll fill you all in. Don't worry about it, Jeannie Heights. Don't worry about it, okay? Yeah, 20 miles is a long ways away. I wouldn't be worried about that. It's wow, that's a long ways away. All right, so hey, thank you, Barbara Ann. There is an update, a little bit of an update in the case of Orsolya Gaal, So let me do that one first.
Body. Eyewitness News reporter Candace McCowan is live in Forest Hills with more this morning. Candace.
Yeah, and Shirley, that suspect appearing before a judge late last night, that is when we finally got more details about exactly what happened inside of this home, allegedly, when that victim even invited the suspect into her home. Now, take a look. The prosecution submitted a transcript of the taped statement of David Bonola that he made to police, where they say that he confessed. He's accused of killing Orsolya Gaal in her Forest Hills home on Saturday. Police say the two had a 2-year-long extramarital affair until she wanted to break it up. Bonola was a handyman employed by the victim's family, and police say the two argued in her basement with her teenage son sleeping upstairs.
A heated argument ensues between the two in the basement. A knife is brandished. A violent struggle ensues, resulting in our victim being stabbed ruthlessly and brutally in excess of 55 times.
Yeah, there's a new headline. I don't think that's it. Well, and by the way, he just went into the police and he talked candidly. They call it a matter of fact, like he literally just went through and explained everything that was going on. I'd like to have the transcript of that. But then in another web page, I think I actually put it on. I'll open up that one. Hold on a second. I gotta go to my community section because I think it's important to actually bring that up. Come on. I hate when it does that. God, I hate when it does All right. Well, I already got the screenshot of what mattered. So on the independent website, news website, it says the jealous handyman accused of murdering his, often lover, Orsolya Gaal, has said he killed her after discovering she had been texting another man. An unnamed senior New York Police Department supervisor told the Daily Beast that David Benola said he had been having an affair with the married mother of two on and off for the past 2 years. Mr. Benola, 44, claimed he had seen text messages between Miss Gaal and another man, and so he went to her home. I don't believe that's the order. I think he went to the home, grabbed her phone, and then saw the text messages. When would he have been able to see text messages on her phone on another time? They weren't with each other anymore. And so I think he was at her house, and he took her phone and saw the text messages on there. And I think there's some stuff that's not being told that's accurate here. But here's the thing, I know exactly, here's what he feels like. Ask yourself this. You're not psychos, but let me ask you guys this. Let's say you're dating somebody, and even if you were you're with a married man or married woman, and they were seeing you, and then it turns out where they don't want to see you anymore, but then you find out that they're actually seeing other people that aren't the husband now. I think that would make anybody angry, at least, right? Because you'd be like, well, why? How come I couldn't have been, why wasn't I the one of the cheating people that you chose, right? So that's kind of like how you can picture where his anger is coming from. The only difference is between he and other people is he's psycho, right? See, I always compare, Jodi Arias is a good comparison, a situation where, Travis Alexander was always having booty calls with all these people, and he just kept using Jodi all the time, kind of using her, and she would use him for power, but, he just used her for sex because it was forbidden. He wasn't supposed to have it. She was never going to be somebody that he would marry. And it just turns out that he was doing a booty call with a psycho. See what I'm saying? She ends up being a psycho person that reacted differently than other people do in the same situation. So it's always important to, when you go, oh, you're victim blaming. Well, victim blaming is totally different. You have to go into the how something might have happened. And I think in this case, if that is true, hey, thank you, Eugenie and Your Gypsy and Linda Howell and Alice Patak and Your Gypsy again and Barbara Ann. Well, I guess I just missed all those. I got Barbara Ann though. Linda Howell and Your Gypsy, yep, and then Eugenie and yeah. See, in situations like this, I think it is important because it's a dangerous thing to do, and I think people have to talk about it. If you're in a relationship like that and you get out of it, you just stay out of it. She got back together with him in early April. It probably rekindled, his hopes or whatever the hell he is. I don't know what this guy is. He seems like a nutter because he was going over to I was reading another article where he would go over to a coffee shop and he'd leave notes for all the girls and jewelry, and he'd tell me he wanted to marry him. So I think he's just a psycho, and that happens to be a guy that she picked. She might not have known the level of psychoness, right? Thanks, Rhea Mazzarone and Kendley Woodward Stone. Hey, that rhymes. I need to use that as a in the rap. Ria Mazaron and Candalee Woodward-Stone. Yeah, there we go. And Candalee Woodward-Stone. I think that'd be pretty good. I don't know if she was desperate for attention. She just probably thought like, wow, I look pretty good. A lot of people are attracted to me. And yeah, who knows? You know what? We don't know how it was at home. It doesn't really matter what it is. What matters is the set of facts that led up to the murder. Those all matter. She just happened to do this with a guy that is unhinged and a psycho. Okay, so it's not ideal. Can everybody agree that it's not ideal to do the sorts of things that she was doing? All right, let's just not pretend that So that's a real thing. It's not ideal. Okay, but that doesn't mean, as we have to always put in there, that she deserved to die. But what happens is when you do those types of things, and it happens with a psycho like this guy, really bad things are going to happen. Yeah. All right. So. Oh yeah, and by the way, he's an illegal alien. It turns out he's been here for 20-something years. Now, one thing I will say is if we had a no-tolerance policy for illegal aliens and didn't allow illegal aliens into the country, deaths wouldn't happen. And here's the thing is, every single death, I've said this before, every single death committed by an illegal alien is one that should never have happened because they shouldn't have been here. All right? And so there you have it right there. When people go, well, she would have been killed by somebody else, of course. Well, how do you know? I mean, you sound like a lunatic when you say that. I said that during the Molly Tibbetts case. Same, it's the truth. Yeah, well, that's what they told us, though, Zozo. So, everybody was told, we were all told that she was sitting at a bar for 40 minutes waiting for some unknown guy to show up. Well, that didn't happen. That whole scenario was never true. She literally just went to like a play or something and went back to the same bar that she goes to all the time to have her one drink and a meal, and then she was heading home for the night. Okay? So all that stuff was made up. There's something missing here, though. Because they make it sound, they don't tell us how he knew that she just got home 10 minutes before. Was that just pure luck? Or was he waiting around for her? Because she got home at like 12:30. Or was she texting? I'd like to know how that happened. Because I'm trying to see if it's really supposed to be second degree or first degree. Yeah, I think he was waiting there for her. I don't know. I don't think it has anything to do with, even if she was giving him financial help, it's not like, you're cutting off my financial, this is a different type of situation. This guy is just a pure, he's a psycho. And just like I told you guys, she was trying to get him to leave. It also says that. She was trying to get him to leave over and over and over again, and he didn't leave. And then he confronts her with the text messages, and then he killed her. But what's weird is they say that he killed her at 12:30 or 40 or whatever. And I don't know, man, because it seems to me like they must have been chatting away for a while down there for him to be there for 4 hours. Waited on her then? What are you talking about, Brittany? I have no idea what that even means. Full sentences, please. Yeah, it was a total nightmare. What happened there? I mean, it really is. It's the counter Jodi Arias story. A guy instead of a woman. I mean, she's one of the rare women to do that sort of thing in the same situation. They usually are vindictive in other ways, you know, try to get you just publicly or some other thing, if it was something like that. Instead of stabbing you 27 times and cutting your throat, almost your head completely off. Yeah. Yeah, well, I think it's good that this son never heard anything. I don't think that's sad at all. Man, I mean, you want the son to run down there and get killed? I think if the son had woken up and ran down there, he'd be dead too, right now. Because he would have, in his mind, really quickly thought of killing the kid to protect him and, you know, avoid being arrested. That's what I think, Kathy B. too. I think that the timing of when he got the knife and why he was there so quickly after she got home is something they're going to need to explain really well to make that second-degree murder to me. Because to me it feels like he got the knife early on because they ended up down in the basement. The knife was upstairs. So that means he forced her downstairs. It's not like they were downstairs arguing and he goes, "Hey, can I go use the restroom really quick?" And then he runs upstairs and grabs a knife and comes back down. That would be ludicrous. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, he could have had something like that, the tracking thing. But I don't think he had some weird, crazy software that he could read her emails. I think he came home and he goes, "Let me see your phone," with the knife in his hand. And then he read the text messages. And because she wouldn't have given it to him unless there was a threat of some sort. Or, I mean, he could have just grabbed it and forcibly taken it, I guess. But, you know, those are the key things to me is, you know, when did he get the knife? And, you know, where was he that he could be there at her house so quickly? Because he lives over, it was like 2 miles away or something. There's no way he got there in 10 minutes. So he was there, right after she got home. Right, I think he was waiting right there. Apparently, she let him in, though. So that's one aspect of it. I mean, I can understand that. Like, you know, hey, he goes, "Hey, can I come in?" And she's like, "Okay, but you got to be quiet. My kid's upstairs sleeping." And then it just goes all haywire right after that. But apparently, she let him into the house. That's what he's claiming, anyways. You know, I don't know if there's a camera. They did have cameras, so maybe there's footage showing him being let in. Yeah, let me do that really quick. Hold on a second. Oh, there it is. Okay. I'm just going to measure it again to get the exact distance. So he lived over here. So let's just go from her house as a crow flies. So it might not be as far as I said. It might be like 1 point something. But okay, that's 2 miles. However, that's in a straight line, so that means it's really more like 2.4 or 5, you know. Yeah, given the angle that it's at, because you have to kind of zigzag through the rows. Although there are straight lines here. So once he got over there, so it might only be like 2.25 or something. So that means he was near her house, right? I mean, when she got home, I think he was waiting outside. He probably even was one of the... Okay, there was 3 messages from guys on her phone. So, don't you think that he might be one of those? And she just said, "Oh, I'm just having a drink. I'll be home in a little while." And then he bolts over there, right? And then confronts her. I mean, she might have still texted him or something like that. All right, anyways, that's all I got for this one, you guys. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it. I think he's a psycho. He was waiting for her to get home. Yeah, we know that, Kathy B. Yeah, he was walking around by there and he turned himself in, basically. He said, "I heard you're looking for me." You know, it wasn't like he said, "I heard you're looking for me." I think he was just ready to turn himself in. You know, I don't know what the deal is with that guy. He seems nuts to me. First degree murders when you intentionally kill somebody. I don't think there's a difference in New York. Hold on. Here we go. New York City first, or just New York, first degree murder. What is it? A person is guilty of first degree murder. This is in New York right here. When with intent to cause the death of another person, he causes the death of such person or a third person, and the intended victim does say it was a police officer as defined in Division 34 of Section 1.2 of the Criminal Procedure Law, who was at the time of the killing engaged in the course of performing his official duties, and the defendant knew or reasonably should have known that the intended victim was a police officer, or the intended victim was a peace officer as defined in paragraph a Division 21, Division 23, 24, blah, blah, blah. Then it says, or the intended victim was a firefighter, or the intended victim was an employee of state correctional. Maybe it is something more like that. That's kind of weird. Why would it be, you know, and it says, Section 40, killing engaged, da, da, da. Or at the time of the commission of the killing, the defendant was confined in a state correctional institution, or was otherwise in custody, or the intended victim was a witness to a crime, or the defendant committed the killing or procured commission of the killing pursuant to an agreement with a person other than the intended victim, like a hit on somebody. The victim was killed while the defendant was in the course of committing or attempted to commit, and in furtherance of robbery, burglary in the first degree. Okay, so if you're committing a burglary or robbery and there's a murder, that's also first degree, so that's not a police officer situation. Or as part of the same criminal transaction, the defendant with intent to cause serious physical injury to or the death of an additional person or person causes the death of an additional person or persons, whatever the hell that means, or prior to committing the killing, the defendant had been convicted of murder. So I guess if it's like a second murder, then it's first degree now. The defendant acted in an especially cruel and wanton pursuant to a course of conduct intended to inflict and inflicting torture upon the victim prior to the victim's death. Well, there you go. I would throw that one in there. See, that one has nothing to do with police officers or anything. It says depraved means the defendant relished the infliction of extreme physical pain. I actually could make that argument on this guy right here. He stabbed her 58 times because it was cathartic to him. It made him feel better. I even said that the other day. Okay? So I think you could make an argument in this portion right here. Depraved. Or the defendant intentionally caused the death of 2 or more additional persons within the state in separate criminal transactions, like a spree killing. The intended victim was a judge. Yeah. So I think you could make that argument right there. anyways. Hey, thanks, Pebs W. Yeah, I talked to Peb's mom. I gotta edit that thing up a little bit, but I talked to her mom, and you know, she gave me like 2 or 3 different instances or whatever. It wasn't like you were saying it was gonna be this long story or anything, but she's really she seemed like an awesome mom. You know, I was thinking she seemed like my mom. You know, it was just really strong person. You know, while she was trying, you know, she was in a nightmare marriage for 18 years. Then she got out. But before she got out, she went to learn how to become a nurse, LPN. And then she left. And then after she left, things were a little bit more expensive. So she worked at a coal mine for 5 years. And amazingly, she got a divorce, of course. And then she was at the coal mine for 5 years, and then she was set up on a blind date, and she's been married to that person for 40-something years, and they have this great marriage, and she's really happy now. And that was kind of a neat story, so we'll put that all together and put it out there. Yeah, and by the way, when she left, she didn't make the dad pay any child support at all. She wanted to do it all by herself. And that's a smart way to do it when you have an absolute abusive psycho like that. You know, you want to get them out of your life, and you'll be so much happier, even if it's harder, you know, financially for you. Your life will be happier. I guess she worked in a coal mine. There was 8 of them, but it was what's that called? Like high coal or something, where it's more towards the surface, like it's not like you're underground inside with the lanterns and all that shit. Okay, anyways, I'm gonna move on now to a different story, but again, yeah, that's a crazy case. So I'll put the video out of her, I don't know when, sometime. I don't know if I'll try to get it done before I go to CrimeCon, but we'll see. No, she said it was high coal, not surface mining. All right, let me do this other story here. Okay, so this is the Stone County murders. Yeah, and they spelled their names wrong in the first few articles I read, so it took me a while, but I got it all figured out. This just happened on Thursday. Might have been Wednesday when it happened, but Thursday.
Park. Kate Asaf at the Stone County Sheriff's Office with what we know so far and how neighbors are reacting to these shocking deaths.
Now let me get the beginning of that. Come on.
In Stone County, questions still surround a Thursday night tragedy. 4 people killed in 2 different homes. The scenes just a quarter-mile apart. Kate Asaf at the Stone County Sheriff's Office with what we know so far and how neighbors are reacting to these shocking deaths.
You know, right now there are just a lot of questions and not that many answers. News of these killings sent the county into lockdown, with one neighbor we spoke with even deciding to keep his kids home from school. Right now, everyone's just hoping that a suspect is found and that officers are able to bring this to justice.
Stone County is holding its breath, reeling in shock and waiting for answers. Thursday night, sheriff's deputies were called to Northcutt Road in Bend. where they found the unthinkable. 77-year-old Shirley Waters and her son, 55-year-old James, shot to death in their home. The scene itself enough to devastate a county, but just a quarter-mile away off AR-5.
It's not a quarter. It's not a quarter mile. It's like 1 1/4. It's not a quarter.
Something worse. 2 more victims. 75-year-old William Clinton Trammel and his wife Sharon, killed the same way.
It was a bad situation.
Roger Dunham heard the news in Mountain Home.
This morning at breakfast, we all talked about it, and nobody really could believe. This is a nice community.
The Marine Corps vet and ex-Dallas police officer moved here to escape violence. Now it's at his front door.
The word went out to keep your doors locked and know who's coming up your driveway. It's just amazing that happened here. It was unbelievable.
With an investigation just beginning, those here are left waiting and holding their breath while they do.
Yeah, it hasn't been confirmed yet that these 2 homicides are officially connected.
Okay, come on. Look at every time you say something like that, they're not connected. Everybody, we can't confirm them yet. No, you can just confirm it because they were the same day and they're this far apart and they're right there. You don't need to wait around and just say in all likelihood they're connected, although it hasn't officially been said yet. You don't need to say, well, we don't know if they're connected. Yeah, they are. Okay, I'll just tell you right now. And if it isn't, I'm going to go buy a lottery ticket. Thank you, Kathy Freudenmaker. Yes, you guys, if you'd like to help out the channel to allow me to keep doing this and the charities, thank you very much. Every $5, your name gets put into the raffle spin at the end for a chance to win a mug. All right. So one of the homes is right here. This is William Clinton Trammel, 75, and Sharon K. Trammel. So I think the order was probably this one first, then that one. Because this one, it's 2 out on a main road. You'd want to do that one last in case somebody saw you or something. But so if you were going to go down, this is kind of a trip looking at this because there's this lady right here mowing, and I think that's her. I mean, it's kind of sad. I have a feeling that is, I think that's Mrs. Trammel. Sharon, right there. Isn't that crazy? Like she's just out there mowing the lawn, and that's the house. Actually made me feel bad looking at her. I was just thinking because she reminded me of like my mom. My mom used to drive around at that property they had with the tractor, and you just, she's just going around making the property look nice and doing her thing, in retirement years. And then some monster comes up the driveway there and kills both of them. And then the other property this is the one that was listed for them. Whether or not they live there right now, but it makes sense because it's just right up the road, and it was on North Cut Road, and that's a sign that was in the video. So this house right here, there's no street view there. If you win what? I'm not sending a mug to a woman's organization. Yeah, we just do charities like RAIN and things like that. So, thank you, though. I don't know what that means. Yeah. So this is Shirley Waters, Shirley G. Waters, and her son, James C. Waters. And so it was a mother and son, but it's what's interesting about this, I don't know if it means anything, but you have 3 70-year-old people and then a 55-year-old, just a son. What's going on with that? Are all the people that live here elderly? Like retirement community or what? I mean, that's pretty strange to have two elderly, sets killed. I mean, 55 isn't that young either. Authorities in Arkansas say 4 people were fatally shot at 2 homes in a rural community, but investigators have not yet determined whether the deaths are connected. Well, I'm connecting them. Thank you. The deaths were reported Thursday at homes about 1/4 mile, that's not true, apart in rural Stone County. All right, so if you actually measure the distance there, it's 1.24, so 1 1/4 miles. Maybe they missed that part, the 1. The deaths were reported Thursday at 2 homes about 1/4 mile apart in rural Stone County, about 75 miles north of Little Rock, Arkansas. State police said both had gunshot wounds. About 8 hours later, investigators were called to a nearby home where William Clinton Trammel, 75, and his wife Sharon Trammel, 72, were found dead, also with gunshot wounds. State police special agents are investigating the cases independently and have not, at this juncture, found conclusive evidence to confirm whether the cases might be related. Well, right, that means that maybe a different gun was used at both scenes, so maybe that indicates 2 different people were together at the time. But there's no way they're not related. The same day in a tiny little town like that, 1.25 miles apart. Yeah, no way. I actually found this in the paper. Here's Claude Wesley Waters. So this is actually Mountain View, Arkansas, passed away October 25th. So think of that. That's only 6 months ago at Baptist Health Medical Center. Claude, better known as Claudia, was a veteran of the United States Army National Guard and a member of the Foothills Baptist Church. So down at Claude is survived by the love of his life, 55 wonderful years. Shirley, that's one of the women that was just killed. And the son, James Cecil Waters. And that's them right there. So Shirley G. Waters and James C. Waters. So this is the husband of Shirley. He just died 6 months ago. So I wonder if there's something to do. I was looking through here to see if maybe Trammel was named down here somewhere, but didn't see it. No, it's not. It's only, what do you mean as a crow flies? What are you talking about? It's not 1/4 mile as the crow flies. It's 0.7. I already measured that. It's not even close. Say 0.78. It's not 1/4. They got it wrong. The search is underway. You sort of wonder, did she get an inheritance from the husband and somebody found out about it? But then what about the other house, though? What happened there? The search is underway for the person responsible for 4 homicides in Bend Community, Stone County. 2 people were found dead at each of 2 separate houses about 1/4 mile apart. That's not true. Even if I don't even know, how far is it to right here? If they move somehow in that small amount of time, that's 0.63 just to get to there. And they were found on this road right there. I saw the sign. Matter of fact, let me open up the Okay, I don't think that's the one. Let me just check. I don't think that's this one. Yeah, so that means this is the other one. So the shape of that is kind of like goes out, and then there's an L-shaped roof. That doesn't really have that. So let's go to the other one. And does it make? Yeah, see. It's even got a green roof on it. See, that's the house right there. Hold on. Yeah, we just it arrived. It was weird because it had two addresses on it. One was from Chasing Truth, and the other one's to me. But it had both of them on the same. It was just crazy. I don't know. Hold on. Okay. Yeah, I just had to let her know that I got the thing. Yeah, okay. So the CrimeCon banner got here. Thank God. Yeah, I'm pretty quick. I can type like 65 words a minute. Okay, hold on. So, yeah, I think that proves that that is the house, right? So that means they're way off on all the crap that they're telling everybody. So you can see the roof up there. Oh, you can't. Wow, that's funny. No, you can see it. Yeah. See, right up there, it's a green roof, and then it kind of has has a point. There's a driveway, and then the point, that portion of the house is parallel with the driveway. Let's see if that works. And there it is. See, there's the driveway. There's a little the portion of the roof that's parallel with that. Although it's in a different spot though, so I have to look at that again. I don't know what year this is. Hold on. That didn't actually make sense. Yeah, because the thing that maybe it was this one. There you go. Does that make sense? Oh yeah. Okay, so there must be something that kind of turns in right there, but you can see the green roof and that. There's a bunch of trees in there. Let's see if there's anything that, well, it wouldn't even matter because even here is off, and it's definitely on that road. So it's 1.25 miles, not a quarter like they keep trying to tell everybody. Not sure how that happens like that. Does anybody just check something? Pretty weird. Yeah. No, not that one. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, this is a weird one. Because that's all there is. There isn't really any other information. I tried looking them up on social media, but I didn't really have a lot of time. So I didn't spend a lot of time looking at the Trammel, looking them up. Oh, they said Mountain View. I mean, it says Mountain. It's on Mountain View. I mean, it is. Their address is Mountain View, actually. You know, then they said Ben. But see, there's Mountain View Road right there. Mountain View's actually right here. This other town right there. So Mountain View. So maybe that's considered that. I don't know. But you guys, right now we're at a quarter of a nightly normal night, and I'm going to be going to CrimeCon, so I'm not going to be able to focus as much as I'd like. I try to do the shows, but I'm trying to get ahead of it, but we're really struggling the last 3 or 4 nights in here. The news reporter said Mountain Home, so I don't know what that means. All right. I hope it's not like the quality of the show isn't good enough, because actually it's more like 20% right now. We're at 20% of actually being able to give out a mug. As crazy as that sounds. Huh? The weirdos. That's what you guys should actually call yourselves. Hi, Zozo. Hey, Rick. Yeah, he doesn't know. They don't know. Well, none of them do. Every article said a quarter of a mile. So none of them do, I guess. Yeah. Well, maybe it is Mary, though. It's hard to say. And thank you. Oh, thank you to Stacy Millicy on PayPal. Very generous. Thank you very much. Yeah. Ah, God, what happened right there? Hey, thanks, Alley Cake. There you go. Man, we got to 40%, just like that, in one hop. There, hold on. Thank you. Oh, I don't have the music going, but it would have went. Or no, that would have been the UFO one. And thank you to Just a Friend. All right. All right. Okay. So I don't know. I don't have any more to add this one. It just seems really odd, right? I mean, you got this town in the middle of nowhere. I mean, look at that. I mean, these aren't even big towns. These other ones over here, they're just little. So it's just this tiny little area in Arkansas, and within 1.25 miles of each other, 2 people are shot the same. 4 people are shot the same night, 2 in each residence. And I don't know what their connection is. I think that might be an important issue, is to find out what sort of connection do each of the families have? If they don't have any, I mean, obviously they probably know each other because everybody, you know, it's a small little community there. So is there something like that angle, or yeah, I don't know. You know, to me it doesn't seem like it's a sort of a something about getting somebody's life insurance, because there's two completely different, you know, unrelated families in terms of, you know, genetically. Huh?
Huh?
Yeah, as soon as I heard that huh, I knew I had to do that one. Yeah, well, go look it up then, Zozo. Yeah. I looked all around, couldn't find it. They're old. You know, these people are retired right now. And they've probably been retired for a while. I mean, I'm assuming they're retired. Because Peb's mom is 79 and she's still working as a nurse. She likes it. So, I mean, that's pretty amazing. You know? Oh yeah, yeah. That's crazy, crazy nurse. And thank you, Tamara Court. I haven't. Where did our Tamara go? I haven't seen her for a long time. You know what I'd say? Not today, but Tamara. Or is that you? You just added your last name. I don't know. Whoa! Well, we just jumped right into Mug City. Quietly frozen. Traveling time zones really messed me up. Made it to the West Coast finally. Caught a live show. Passed to the next spinner. Okay. Well, geez. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Wow. That was like 40 things. But it's another spin, she said. Thank you, Quietly Frozen.
Traveling time zones.
Oh, that's one of the fake accounts there.
Made it
Yeah.
to West Coast. Finally caught a live show. Passed to next spinner.
Ding 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 diddle ding 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 diddle ding 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 ding. Yeah, I bet those all those charities out there think the same way. There, troll. I'm sure they think the same thing. Let's see. So in a minute here, we're going to do the Brownstown fire again. We went over that like 3 months ago. I wanted to go over it again so that we're all really familiar with it, and then I'm going to get a hold of the lieutenant sheriff again, and then he can get people to come on, perhaps, and discuss it, and we'll have, you know, have a better go at it, if you know what I'm saying. So hold on a second. Yeah, 79,625. You guys. So hold on a second. And thank you very much, Quietly Frozen. That was like ridiculously generous. Thank you very much. All right. Got it. Had to do some updates there. Okay, you guys ready to go on to that one? If you guys want, the names are Shirley, in this case right here, if you want to look stuff up and if you can find what they were doing and how maybe they're connected, that'd be great. I just didn't have time. I found out about this like an hour and a half before the show and then just did what I could. It's kind of a new story, so there isn't a lot out there, but the names are Shirley G. Waters, so it's Shirley Waters, but Waters has 2 T's in it. And then the son is James C. Waters with 2 T's in it. Oh, I haven't seen the original Tomorrow in a while. And then the other couple is William Clinton Trammel, or Trammel maybe, but it's Trammell, and Sharon K. Trammel, or Trammel, whatever. I don't know how to pronounce it, but Trammell. All right. So if you want to go look those up, try to figure out what they're doing, but I don't want you to update me on the show. I'm moving on right now. Just send me something in an email or Facebook or something. I don't want to hear any, hey, Gray, they, I don't need to hear it, okay? Just let me know, like in an email or Facebook or something. Yeah. I don't want, but here's the thing. I don't, if you can't afford to send in super chats and whatnot, you don't have to do it. Okay. And I don't want you to. Like, if it's something where, well, I can send Gray $10, or I don't eat tomorrow, I don't want you to come anywhere near that. Let me know if you're in that situation. I'll send you something maybe, depending on if I know who you, if you're a troll, forget it. Okay. Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. But if you can and you want to help out, and what we're doing here is, so basically how it works on this channel is you guys are the freaks. You're supporting my channel by becoming channel members, or sending in super chats, or if you can't afford that, you hit the like button, whatever it is. But the financial part of it is the super chats, ad revenue, and channel membership. I take those numbers, and then I even use some PayPal too, but PayPal I usually use for things like the trips or a new computer, things like that. But you guys are keeping me doing what I'm doing, but I also use PayPal to make sure that we're over the 50%, because some months aren't as good on YouTube, right? So let's say if the channel brought in, and it's the net revenue from YouTube. So just to let you know, if all the income that came in was like $10,000, well, YouTube takes, I get, that's, let's say after YouTube already got their percentage that they do. So then there'd be 10,000 left. And I get taxed like 28%, right? So then there'd be $7,200. And then I take half of that and more. So a lot of times in a month like that, I'll be donating close to $4,000 on a month like that. So it's actually 55-60%. Right? So there you go. And that allows me to have an income that comes in on the channel, and at the same time we support charities at a ridiculous number. I mean, if you find anybody else that does that percentage and with income coming in like that, let me know. I'll shout them out. Well, I'm just telling you guys because I'm absolutely transparent here. I have told you guys 1,000 times exactly what goes on, but you still have the trolls that don't have a clue what they're talking about, and they say the same thing over and over and over and over again. All right, there you go. So that's just me being open, and it is what, and yes, I do write off the charities too at the end of the year. It's not dollar for dollar like everybody seems to think either. But yes, I do that. And to be honest with you, if I didn't do that when I did my taxes, I'd be a complete moron. Anyways. You ready? Well, thanks, Nikki124. Yeah. Sometimes you don't know, though. There's just so many crazy people. And I like to have full disclosure. So when you send in a super chat, you can know that a large portion goes to charity, a portion goes to the channel, and then YouTube takes their chunk too, right? Right. Okay, so now we're going back in time right now to 1971. We went over this a while ago. And there it is. Go back over. We showed that the other night. That doesn't look like the right one. Yeah, that wasn't right. It's in this area right here. Brownstown, Indiana. And if you zoom out, the other, that's kind of interesting. I mean, the woman that's missing, Pamela, that we've been talking about, that was at the Circle K, that's actually their destination isn't really that far away from there. And then Delphi is up here. That's Indianapolis. So it's south of Indianapolis right there. All right, so here we go. So this is a kind of a weird story because there's an individual who just sort of disappears. So we've got, it says right here, 2 Brownstown teenagers die in a fire. Third youth still missing. 2 Brownstown teenagers died in a fire southwest of Brownstown early Saturday morning, and state and county authorities today were attempting to determine the whereabouts of a third youth. Victor L. Burkholder, Deputy Jackson County Coroner, said the remains found in the ruins of the small log cabin on the Raymond Friday Robinson farm just off of Indiana 135 between Brownstown and Valonia have been identified as Stanley Ray Robinson, 17, and Jerry Allen Autry, 19. Michael William Sewell, 16, who reportedly had been with the 2 victims earlier Saturday night, is missing. Authority said, but no trace of a third victim was found in the fire. Police said a 4th Brownstown teenager left Autry, Robinson, and Sewell at the small weekend cabin on the Robinson farm about 2 a.m. Saturday. So that guy's a little bit interesting, right? But also, Sewell's missing at this point. So then you might think to yourself, well, maybe he said it and he ran away. But that's not what happened. About 8:45 a.m. Saturday, a sister of the Robeson boy, Mrs. John Hartley, discovered the smoldering remains of the cabin, which had burned to the ground sometime during the pre-dawn hours. Deputy Coroner Buckhalter said today that 2 class rings, 2 sets of human bones were found, and they are the only 2 sets of bones. We have nothing more to go on. Buckholter said that Dr. Merritt Alcorn of Madison, a registered pathologist, also was called to examine the remains. State police here said this morning that Sewell boy simply is missing. No trace of him has been found. Sewell's described as 5 feet 5 inches tall and very long brown hair and green eyes. At least 5 search parties combed the area around the cabin site during the weekend, investigating the possibility that Sewell boy might have been in the cabin and stumbled from the blazing structure only to collapse somewhere nearby. The state police helicopter also was called in to aid in the search, but no sign of the missing boy was found. The area was searched foot by foot, Burkholder said. Involved in the continuing... Not sure if I have the second page on that. Let's see. I guess it could be. No, it's a different one. So, all right. So now we're on another article the same day. So these are them right here. Here's Stanley Robeson, right there. Jerry Autry. And then down here is Michael Sewell. Yeah. So the remains of the Brownstown Central High School students were found Saturday in the smoldering ruins. This sounds almost similar. Let me see if it's down here. Another youth whom authorities refused to identify told police he had dropped the Sewell youth off at the cabin around 3 a.m. All right, let me go start down here. The youth built the cabin. So these kids built their own cabin right here. The youth built the cabin of old creosote-coated railroad ties. So that's very flammable. About 2 months ago, according to Robeson's family, located about a quarter mile from the main house on the Robeson farm, the cabin was in a thinly wooded area off of a farm lane. Open farmland surrounds the rest of the area about a 1.25 mile south of Brownstown. Well, it turns out, like after reading all these articles and everything, I put the cabin right there, and then I got an email from the lieutenant. He gave me a picture of the area, and he put a pin right there. It was absolutely crazy. I mean, I couldn't believe it. Yeah, really weird. The cabin was in a thinly wooded area off a farm lane. Open farmland surrounds the rest of the area about 1.25 miles south of Brownstown to the east of Road 135. So where was the Road 135? I'm just trying to... Yeah, see, they had it over here, the east of 135. Remember we were down here originally? And then in later articles, we finally got it up into this area. It was really wild. But for a while, though, we had it... I made this circle saying, okay, it's inside of that. We know that. And then they had us over in this area for a while. It was weird. The windowless cabin had a single door near the end of the 15-foot walls. In the middle of the 9-foot wall near the door was located a wood stove used to heat the building. A couch was located near the stove on the long wall opposite the door. The cot where the bodies were found was diagonally opposite the couch. A daybed was located in the remaining corner. The young man camped out as often as 2 times a week. The Robeson family said they had used an old school bus before the cabin. So they used to camp in a school bus. Hey, thanks, K-Dog. What's going on? The smoking ruins of the cabin. Okay, where am I at right here? Over here, yeah. The youths had gone to the cabin from a reception. So all these kids that were killed in this cabin had gone to a cabin from a reception in Brownstown for Mrs. Hartley, who had been married about 2 weeks ago. Mrs. Hartley, the former Gerda Robeson, said she had made sandwiches and packed some soft drinks for her brother and Autry when they left for the cabin about 2:30 a.m. So they were at this reception, and those 2 individuals, so let's see, it was, so Robeson, that must be like a brother, maybe, and Autry, the other victim, that they found the rings and the bones of, they left the reception at about 2:30 a.m. Hey, you got it. What are they wrestling over? Oh man, they're going nuts over here. Yeah, Blue's just going nuts. They're wrestling. So I guess Gerda Robeson, that must be his sister, and then she got married, and now she's Mrs. Hartley. And she made, yeah, that's right, her brother. and Autry packed them soft drinks and sandwiches, and they left for the cabin really late, like 2:30 in the morning. Another youth, whom authorities refused to identify, told police he had dropped the Sewell youth off at the cabin. So Sewell here, so now we know how Robeson and Autry got there, or when they got there around 2:30, but then another youth, whom authorities refused to identify, told police he had dropped the Sewell youth off, the 16-year-old, at the cabin around 3. So that kind of makes sense, everybody getting there around the same time. And that the 16-year-old had intended to spend the night with the older two. Mrs. Hartley had gone to the cabin to get the youth Saturday morning to help her clean the reception hall, she said. She is the widow of Danny Ray Delph, a Cummins Engine Company employee who was killed last August when a car in which he was working at the Robeson's home slipped from a jack and crushed him. Oh, geez. Well, that's kind of a weird side story. So Mrs. Autry is the Autry, this kid right here, Jerry Autry's dad then, right? So let's see. Miss Hartley had gone to the cabin to get the youth Saturday morning to help her clean the reception hall, she said. She is the widow of Danny Ray Delph. Hartley. Well, hold on a second. So that's weird. So Robeson, I gotta figure this out here. Another youth whom authorities refused to identify told police he had dropped the Sewell youth off at the cabin around 3 a.m. And then so it says Mrs. Hartley, that's the one who was once Gerda Robeson. So let's just read it like that. Gerda Robeson had gone to the cabin to get the youth Saturday morning to help her clean the reception hall. Right, because she just got married. She is the widow of Danny Ray Delph, a Cummins Engine Company employee who was killed last August when a car on which he was working at the Robeson home slipped from a jack and crushed him. Wow. That's kind of weird. I mean, that's a weird thing. I didn't even catch that the first time we went over this thing. All right, so that's his sister. Robeson's, Mrs. Hartley, which is actually Stanley Robeson's sister, right? Yeah, there you go. Yeah, so her name was Mrs. Hartley, the former Gerda Robeson, the sister of Stanley. She packed some soft drinks and sandwiches for her brother and Autry to take to the cabin at 2:30. And then another youth, whom authorities refused to identify, told police he had dropped the Sewell youth off at the cabin about 3 a.m. and that the 16-year-old had intended to spend the night. So this guy got dropped off by an unknown person. And then Gerda Robeson, who's now Mrs. Hartley, had gone to the cabin the next day to get the youth Saturday morning to help her clean the reception hall. And then she is the widow of another guy named Danny Ray Delph, a Cummins Engine Company employee who was killed last August when a car... Man, so she got married that quick. So something's a little weird about this one. So she gets married that quickly. I mean, not that that's that quickly, but like, this guy gets killed on her property, and then she gets married really quick to somebody else. I mean, I'm not trying to, I don't know what the actual scenario is, but it's interesting that they brought that up in this article. Which he was working at Robeson's home, slipped from a jack, and he crushed him. A state fire marshal was in Brownstown today to try to determine... So when was this then? It was Delph, Cummins Engine Company employee, was killed last August, and this is in... there goes my stomach. I mean, so it's only 4 months prior to this. This is in December. That's a little strange. That is pretty suspicious. I have to tell you. That doesn't sound that good. Maybe it could have been revenge or something, you know. While the pathologist told the coroner verbally he believes the remains were of only 2 bodies, an official written report will not be received until autopsies are complete. The Sewell family reportedly seeking an investigation by another pathologist and were reportedly considering court action to halt the funerals on the grounds that they were entitled to remains of one of 3 bodies. So the Sewell family, they're like, how do you have proof that isn't our kid? You know, there's no DNA. They based it all off of a ring. So that's the thing, is like the Sewell 16-year-old right here, after they found the bodies in the ring, they assumed whose bodies they were based on the rings. So his family is upset about it because I guess they don't know where their kid is and want it to be, that their son is one of those bodies. All right, so now we're going on to December, just a day later in the paper. Missing youth puzzles officials. Report of a 3rd missing teenager here yesterday at Jackson County authorities puzzling over events surrounding a fire in which 2 youths were killed last weekend. 2 Utes. Jerry Allen Autry, 19, and Stanley Ray Robeson, whose sister just got married after waiting 4 months after her previous husband was crushed on her own property by an automobile. Brownstown Central High School were identified as the fire victim, but Michael Sewell, 16, a sophomore at the school, turned up missing. The fire started at a cabin in the pre-dawn hours Saturday, and authorities said it may have been caused by an overheated wood stove or malfunction of kerosene lantern. The blaze began about a half hour after Sewell was reportedly seen entering the small cabin. So he got dropped off at 3, and maybe the fire started at 3:30, which the 3 boys had built. So Sewell, Autry, Robeson had all built this little cabin out of these railroad ties. And they built it about 2 months prior. On a cot were found charred bones. So here's the thing. There's a fire going on. And then you find the bones on a cot. Wouldn't they be by the door trying to get the hell out of there? That's something you might want to look at. I think this might shut off here. Looked like there was an error or something. Can I move this around? Yeah. Oh, there you go. All right. No, I don't think it's figured out. Come on. That's not figured out. I'm just saying. It seemed kind of interesting. But that is an interesting element there, don't you think? What do you think, Adam? Isn't that a pretty interesting element? The blaze began about a half hour after Sewell was reportedly seen entering the small cabin which the 3 boys had built with railroad ties some 2 months earlier on the Robeson farm. On a cot were found charred bones, a class ring, and a cigarette lighter. So he just laid there and let the fire burn him. I mean, wouldn't you be trying to pound on the door to get out? And did you go back to your cot and lay down? It just seems odd. Dr. Merritt Alcorn Jr., a pathologist, said there were enough bones to account for 2 bodies, but not 3, Jackson County Coroner Keith Burkholter said. Sewell's parents, Mr. and Mrs. Mose Sewell, said they were considering a lawsuit to delay the burial because they weren't sure, they wanted proof whose bodies those were. but now they're looking for him. Funerals, well, let's see. Nothing indicates foul play, Sergeant James Belvins of the state police said Monday. We're looking for Sewell Boy because he was there when the last boy known to police left the 3. So he was there. So remember that he was dropped off at around 3 o'clock by somebody. Authorities said they had talked to 2 youths who left the cabin separately, one about 3 a.m. So now there's 5 kids altogether. And one a few minutes after 3 o'clock Saturday morning. An alarm clock found in the cabin remains was stopped at 3:35. So man, that fire was going like almost immediately. And a motorist on nearby road 135 reported seeing that what he thought was brush fire in an area at 3:30. So a motorist actually saw the fire because it was huge. The fire was believed to have started between 3 and 4 a.m. The windowless... I mean, isn't it amazing that somebody dropped Sewell off at 3, and then another individual was there, and they left just shortly after that, like 3:10 or so, let's say. And then at 3:35, it's so hot in the cabin that it already stopped the clock. And the flames are so big, somebody's over there. So it's just amazing in a 20-minute period of time that it burned so hot that it stopped the clock. I mean, I know that these railroad ties are basically matches. I mean, it's ridiculous what they're covered with. Yeah, I don't know all the crazy stuff there, Adam. I just go over what, all I have is what the newspaper says. So it'd be cool to talk to some of the... do you know him, Adam? That'd be pretty cool. Yeah. Yeah, that'd be great to talk to him. So we're just going over the show again so that we're familiar with it to be able to communicate with some of these people. And then we'd all know what we're talking about. Let's see. The fire was believed to have started between 3 and 4. A wood-burning stove was located near the only door in the 9 by 15 structure, and a kerosene lantern had been burning near the door. Another lantern also was used to light the 2-month-old structure where the youth camped regularly. Light the 2-month-old structure. Okay, the last of the 2 youths were left in the cabin shortly before the fire was believed to have started, yeah. The building was found burned to the ground at 8:10 a.m. So nobody went there when the fire was going. Isn't that crazy? Pathologists said remains found in the ashes were enough for 2, but not 3 bodies. Identification of the bodies were based on the class rings found with the remains, which included only a few small pieces of bone. Keith Bulkholder, Jackson County Coroner, said he would not sign death certificates until the pathologist's written report was forwarded to him. However, he did give permission for the funerals. Well, that's kind of weird. I mean, wouldn't you want to make sure that you had the identities? Let's see. The Sewells at first were reported to believe their son also died in Saturday's blaze and had considered filing a court to stop the funerals. However, authorities said today that the family has decided such action would be pointless. Samples of ashes were taken Monday by the State Fire Marshal Office to the State Police Laboratory in Indianapolis to try to determine the cause of the blaze. Yeah. Alright, so this is one, the next day in the paper. I didn't have this one before. It has extra pictures in it. So I guess this is like inside the cabin. Like it's just completely burnt to the ground at this point. Search widens for youth missing in fire tragedy. So now they're just really kind of focused in on Sewell. They're trying to find him, this guy right here. So you got Stan Robeson and Jerry Autry. Let's see. As funeral rites were held Tuesday afternoon for 2 Brownstown youths whom authorities believe to have perished in a cabin fire early Saturday morning, search was widening for a 3rd youth known to have been at the cabin as late as 3 o'clock Saturday morning. Believed to have perished in the blaze are 17-year-old Stanley Ray Robeson, only son of Mr. and Mrs. Raymond Friday Robeson, west of Brownstown, and 19-year-old Jerry Allen Autry, son of Mr. and Mrs. Walton Autry of Brownstown. Autry was a member of this year's graduating class at Brownstown Central High School, and Robeson was a junior. Still unaccounted for, as of this morning, is Michael William Sewell, 16, who is the son of Mr. and Mrs. Mose Sewell, Jr., Francis Street, Brownstown, a Brownstown Central sophomore. Remains found in the ruins were believed to be those of the Robeson and the Autry youths, because Brownstown Central class rings belonging to each were found amid the pile of the bones. See, that's, I mean, it makes sense, but it's not really that accurate. You know what they really should do to get the ball rolling here is to exhume or get bone fragments from both the 2 people that are buried, do forensic, just genealogy on them to make sure that they are indeed Robeson and Autry, because it's possible they've been looking for the wrong person all these years. That Sewell is one of the bodies, and it makes sense though, that the rings are there, but the only way to really know is to exhume the bodies, take the bone fragments, or teeth is probably the best way to do it, but fire really can mess things up, make it really difficult. And so you'd have to be able to absolutely determine that it is Robeson and it is Autry. Once you have that, then you know that you're still looking for Sewell at that point. But wouldn't it would completely change the story, though, if you went, wow, Sewell was one of those bodies and it's Robeson that's missing. And then you might really think, well, that's kind of weird, I mean, then you have a whole different investigation going on at that point. But I think that's got to be something that somebody does. That might be something we could fund, actually. Like if we have the funding, put together the funding, and maybe you guys cover the, you'd have to do an exhumation, something like that. Of course, I don't know if the family has to, well, I think you'd have to do a court order if the family doesn't allow it, but yeah, I think that'd be pretty cool, though, wouldn't it? That would help solve the mystery, and it would actually answer the questions that the Sewell family's always wanted to know. Let's see. The pathologist has proven to himself and us, the deputy coroner said, there were 2 and only 2 bodies, and we assume because of the rings. See, that's just an absolute assumption. These were the bodies of Robeson and Autry until it is proven otherwise. That is the way it will go on the record. Well, maybe it's time to prove once and for all, right? However, Mr. Buckholder said he would withhold his official verdict until he was received Dr. Alcorn's written report, which probably would not be until, let's see. No laboratory test can prove beyond a doubt that one set of bones is one person. Yeah, that's because DNA didn't exist in 1971. It existed, but nobody knew about it. There was no possibility of skin tests or fingerprint tests because the bodies were burned beyond all identifiable qualities. While the deputy coroner, the pathologist, and the state police are of the opinion there were only 2 bodies in the cabin, County Sheriff Joseph Gray said he will always believe There were 3 bodies and will continue to believe so until Sewell youth is found. Well, there wasn't another body, so, I mean, I guess you could say, well, he was incinerated into oblivion, so you don't know, right? The cabin in which the youths died is located on the Raymond Robeson farm, about 1/2 mile west of the Robeson home, 2.5 miles southwest of Brownstown. Constructed of untreated railroad ties and old lumber, the cabin was about 18 feet in size, with tin roof laid over wood and a tin floor also laid over wood. In there was a conventional wash boiler stove, a used couch, 2 box springs and mattresses from Hollywood beds and cot. There were no windows in the cabin, but it had 2 doors. The stove was on the west wall, the beds on the east wall, and the couch along the north wall. It was lighted with Coleman lanterns, which were found in the debris, along with a can believed to have contained Coleman lantern fluid. The can appeared to have exploded. It is known, according to authorities, that the Hubbard youth drove Robeson and Sewell to the cabin. So I guess somebody with the last name of Hubbard, or is that a place? I don't know. Drove Robeson and Sewell to the cabin, and Autry drove his own car. Huh. Well, how did that happen? Because I thought Robeson and Autry were at the reception for the marriage of Robeson's sister, and she dropped them off with a drink and a sandwich. Now you're saying that the Hubbard youth drove Robeson and Sewell to the cabin, and Autry just drove his own car. So that's a completely contradictory piece of information right there. How does something like that get so confusing so quick, Reportedly left the cabin, so let's see. Autry drove his own car, which was found Saturday morning, parked nearby. Hubbard reportedly, so there's a guy named Hubbard, left the cabin about 3 o'clock. Maybe that's the one that, maybe he's still out there. We can talk to him. 3 o'clock Saturday morning, leaving the other 3 youths there. Mrs. Sewell, Mike's mother, said the Hubbard boy told her when he left the cabin at 3 o'clock, he heard Mike say from inside the cabin that, "I'm going to bed," and saw him begin to take off a sweatshirt. She also said Mike was supposed to work for the Alvin Burkham on Saturday and had taken an alarm clock to the cabin to be sure he awoke on time. She said he left their home at 11 o'clock Friday night, telling the family he was going to spend the night at the cabin with Stan and Jerry. Let's see. She said he left their home Friday night, telling him. So who's this person here? Mrs. Sewell, Mike's mother, said the Hubbard boy told her when he left the cabin about 3 o'clock, he saw Mike. So that's, Mike Sewell. So he saw Mike say from inside the cabin, "I'm going to bed." I saw him begin to take off a sweatshirt. She also said Mike was supposed to work for Mr. Alvin Burcham on Saturday and had taken an alarm clock to the cabin to be sure he awoke on time. So that's the one that froze at 3:35. She said he left their home at she said he left their home at 11 o'clock Friday night, telling his family he was going to spend the night at the cabin with Stan and Jerry. So where was he for like the 3.5 hours prior to getting there? About 8 o'clock Saturday morning, the Robeson youth, older sister, Mrs. Gerda Robeson Hartley, that's the one that just got married after her ex-husband, or her husband at the time, was crushed by a car on her own property. So Mrs. Gerda Robeson Hartley drove to the cabin since Stan had promised, but remember she said she was the one that dropped off Hartley. Yeah, was it Hartley? She says she's the one that dropped off Autry and Robeson. So how did that get all changed up like that? Doesn't that bother you guys when there's something so, meaningful and it just goes completely... she said that she was at the reception. She made soft drinks and sandwiches and drove Autry and Robeson to their cabin. Then later, all of a sudden, it's this other guy that drove Robeson and Sewell to the property, and Autry just drove all by himself. Yeah, that's just... I don't like when things get changed. And, I mean, that's such a wild deviance. It's not like, oh, well, it was, you don't even have the same two people in the car. So, anyways, this part seems the same. The next morning, she went over there to get Autry and Robeson to come help clean up the reception hall. So, Mrs. Gerda Robeson Hartley, she just got married the night before, drove to the cabin since Stan had promised to assist her with some work that morning and had not shown up. She found the cabin in smoldering ruins and drove to her parents' home. From there, she contacted the Jackson County Police Department office and talked to Officer Richard Coben, who in turn notified the Brownstown Volunteer Fire Department. Officer Gobin said when he arrived, there was nothing left but smoldering ruins. But when he was able to identify human bones among those ruins, he immediately called the county coroner's office, the Winklepleck Wiesner Funeral Home. Yeah, this is crazy. I always forget how crazy this one is. In Brownstown. So among officials at the scene were Deputy Coroner Burkhold, Officer Gobin, blah, blah, blah. Also among the first to arrive was James Wiesner of the Winklepleck Wiesner Funeral Home. According to Mr. Burkholder, the remains were found along the east wall of the cabin, across the room from the stove, which is determined not to, so it didn't explode. They were buried beneath the roof, which had fallen in. But see, it would have taken a whole bunch of fire and stuff to... It just seems really weird that they weren't moving around trying to get out of there. And how come they couldn't get out? Like, oh, here's a fire, let's get going. According to Mr. Buckholter, the skulls were shattered into many pieces, with no piece found larger than a palm of a man's hand. Also, no complete jawbone was found. The spinal columns were separated and pelvises disintegrated. 4 or 5 teeth also were found. Well, hopefully they found multiple teeth. No, I don't think so. Let's see. There is a pond about 500 yards from the cabin. You got to type in maybe something like that, Dan. Not like it's a fact that everybody has that piece of information. Yeah, so every foot of the area has been searched again and again. There is a good pond. There's a pond about 500 yards from the cabin, and some consideration has been given to search it. Yeah. All right, let me read this part. What's this part over here? On Saturday morning, August 28th, Mr. and Mrs. Robeson's son-in-law, Danny Delph, father of 2 little girls, was crushed to death under a car. Let's see, let me get... The bodies practically were cremated, Mr. Burkholder said. They were more than burned, however. He said with the remains were recovered, it has been established practically without a doubt that only 2 persons perished in the blaze. The tragedy is one of the worst in Brownstown in its history, and is the second tragedy in the Robeson family in less than 4 months. On Saturday morning, August 28th, Mr. and Mrs. Robeson's son-in-law, Danny Delph, father of 2 little girls, was crushed to death under a car which fell on him while he was working on it. Young Delph's body was found by Stan Robeson. Is that the... yeah, so that's one of the kids right there. So young Delph's body was found by Stan Robeson, and ironically, it was his widow. Let's see. So it was his widow who found the cabin in ruins. Is it really ironic? I mean, that's pretty weird. Yeah. So Stan Robeson finds young Delph's body, and then she gets remarried, but it's young Delph's widow then finds Stan Robeson, who found her widow's body. That's pretty strange, right? Wow. We feel the authorities with what they have to work with is the condition. Anyways, I'm not going to keep going through that one, but yeah. I mean, maybe it's something like what you're saying there, Dan, but I mean, we don't really know. I mean, it sounds like there was kind of it wasn't like airtight, like so it seems like air would have gotten in there. I don't know. Maybe it was just a death trap. Maybe something like that happened where they didn't have ventilation, and they died, and then all of a sudden something fell over and burnt the whole cabin up. Well, it's hard to know. Search widens for... I think we already went over that one, didn't we? Hold on. What the heck? Was it in a cabin? Is that a cabin or?
It's a house.
Fire investigation suspended. State Police Sergeant Richard Barker of the Seymour Post announced today that the men have concluded their investigation of a fire which took the lives of 2 Brownstown teenagers. Sergeant Barker said the case could be reopened at any time should new facts pertaining to the case be discovered, but for the present all avenues of inquiry have been exhausted. Sergeant Barker said evidence accumulated to date indicates that 2 youths died in the cabin, which burned to the ground about 3:30 a.m. Saturday, December 18th. The victims are believed to have been Stanley Ray Robeson, 17, son of Mr. and Mrs. Raymond Friday Robeson of Brownstown, Route 1, and Jerry Allen Autry, 19, the son of Mr. and Mrs. Walton Autry of Brownstown. The third youth, Michael William Sewell, 16, son of Mr. and Mrs. Mose Sewell of Brownstown, was seen by friends at the cabin with Autry and Robeson shortly before the fire, and he was even told, said to have been taking his shirt off to go to sleep. The 9 by 15 foot cabin, constructed recently by the 3 teenagers, was located on the farm owned by the Robeson boys' father, about 1/2 mile off Let's see. Huh. Okay, their father, okay. 1/2 mile off Indiana 135 between Brownstown and Valonia. The Sewell youth had not been seen since about 2:30 a.m. that Saturday. I thought it was 3 when he was dropped off. A witness reportedly saw the cabin in flames at 3:30 a.m. However, according to reports by the county coroner's office and the findings of a pathologist, only 2 bodies were found in the charred rubble. State police officers Victor Buckholder, deputy county coroner, and pathologist Dr. Merritt O. Alcorn and Madison, all have stated that there is no physical evidence to indicate the Sewell boy died in the fire, I would imagine. In the fire. But sheriff's officers, state police investigators from the state fire marshal's office, conservation officers, and volunteers have searched the countryside surrounding the cabin site and have found no trace of the third youth. And yet, according to one of his teenage friends, Sewell was at the cabin, preparing to go to bed. You know what's interesting is, what evidence is there really that he was there? You know, at this point. I think later they say there's some other stuff. But right at this point, how do we know he was actually there other than somebody saying that he was there? You know, like, that's it. These 2 puzzling factors. Yeah, let's see. Hey. Chloe won't leave Blue alone, I can tell. Yeah, there was something like there was a car. I guess we'll get to all that later. Anyways, these 2 puzzling factors, the reported presence of the third youth at the scene of the tragedy and absence of any trace of a third body, have given rise to a multitude of wild rumors, hey, just like Adam was saying, which have served only to further hamper authorities in attempting to piece together the actual chain of events. Sergeant Barker said his department has concluded only that 2 persons died in the fire, and the Sewell boy is listed as missing. All right, now we're about 8 days later. Hell, I almost need to go get a drink at this point. What is it, Friday now? Yeah. Well, thank God for the... this could have been a cool night to get way ahead with Quietly Frozen's, but... hey. Yeah, good memory. Yeah, well, that was all... Yeah. I hope you guys remember stuff like that. I know that all that stuff's coming up. Remember how there was even an incident where they were seen like going to their house that night? There's all that stuff. Okay? So I hope you guys remember, stuff like that. At least it means you're paying attention. You wouldn't want me to have to hit one of the sound effect buttons, would you? Like this one. No, I'm not even close. I'm like a quarter of the way through these. It seems like every article's long for some reason. So here's one about Sewell youth still missing, pond near site search. So here's what we could do. Apparently this is the where the cabin was, because this is where I had the pin, and it matched what Adam had on it. So if he said what was it, a half mile, they said? Yeah, there we go. So it would be inside of this. Like right there. And maybe, I don't know, there's a pond right there. That's only a quarter mile away. There's one there. Here, let's go back to the, like 1998. Looks like there's a pond right in there. Or I don't know if that kind of looks like a pond. Let's see if it still looks like one later. Yeah, kind of. Gets smaller. Yeah, that looks like a pond. And then there's one over here even. I mean, hell, that could be the one that they're talking about. It's more like a quarter mile, though. Maybe a little over a quarter mile. And that's the one I'd check too, right? Because it's in the same string of trees. Why wouldn't you check that one? Got a pond right there. And over here, there's nothing over here. So it's going to be something in this area. So I would think that that could be it. Hey, thanks, Jessica Schubach. Chewbacca.
Chewbacca? Oh, I'll do Chewbacca if you want me to.
Yeah, wouldn't that be? That seems like that makes the most sense. Oh, God, that was a good map. What was that one? That was very colorful. Yeah, maybe something like that. That was a good one. Okay, there's a pond there too. And there's one right there, you know, so I mean these are all ponds, I guess. That one's right on the half-mile mark. But why check that pond, you know? Seems like you would find one in the woods where he went. Oh, maybe that one? Right on the edge by the railroad tracks? So there's one. That one makes a lot more sense, actually. If that is what that is. I mean, it looks like that is water right there, right? I mean, does it stay like that? Yeah, it's kind of in the shadows on that one. Oh, there you go. So, yeah, and that's a barrier, too. So if somebody was wandering, they'd have to go through the pond to get across. You know, in that case, they could have gone around it. But all right, so we got. I think those are. I think these two are the best one. This one right here really feels good because it's right on the half-mile mark. It'll be 2 weeks Saturday since the two Brownstown youth, Stan Robeson and Jerry Autry, perished in a cabin fire. Mike left the home of his parents, Mr. and Mrs. Mose Sewell Jr., at about 11 o'clock the night prior to the fire, about 4 hours before the fire, telling them he was going to spend the night with Robeson and Autry, and taking with him his alarm clock. When Deputy Coroner Victor L. Buckarder and pathologist matched the bones found in the charred cabin ruins, said the only two persons died in the fire. Wednesday afternoon, last week, authorities decided to search a pond on the Robert Larman farm, about 500 yards from the fire scene, using scuba divers. 500 yards now. That's nowhere near a mile. That's close to this one. Let's do this one. Oh, look at that. That's 466. Now I think that's probably going to be it right there. I mean, it could be that pond right there, which is probably exactly 500 yards. That one. But there was one right in the middle of the woods right there. But maybe they did check that one, because this one, if you went from here to the pond, that's right at the edge there, is 499. Right on it. Yeah, so that's not, this half mile they said earlier wasn't right. So the search was decided on after some persons expressed the idea that Sewell might have managed to escape the burning cabin and run to the pond, and after he hit the water, went into shock. Let's see. He felt it was very unlikely that the youth had been on the fire, could have made his way to the pond through the heavy undergrowth which separated it and the cabin. However, State Trooper said they're bringing in the scuba divers. They're going to search the pond. They found no sign of a body. The pond is about 60 feet across and from 5 to 8 feet deep. Yeah, that's 127. I think this one might be more it. It's in the undergrowth too. Now they found no sign of a body. The pond is about 60 feet across and from 5 to 8 feet deep, with a channel about 8 feet deep on the far side of the pool. The pond is about 135 yards long. Ah, there you go. So, see, it's the length of it. See, and I'm kind of wondering, I think that's what this is right here. And let me just get the yards in here. So if it started about right in there, well, that's 95, but who knows how. Let me see if I can find a maybe, because it could even be right in there, Let me find a better. Oh, there's a good way to look at it. See, now you can see the entire pond, and I think this is it. So if I went from right there to right here, that's 124 yards. That's right on that number. And then let's see how many feet it was across. Wait, I think this is it. That's got to be it. Look at that. 67 feet, okay? And maybe over here it's a little bit wider. But this one sounds exactly like what they're describing. And it's through the woods, and it's probably on this person's property. That's probably the property line right there. And so this is on another property, not where the cabin is. I'm feeling good about that. Yeah, county conservation officers Lyman Gobin, who offered his assistance, reportedly found some tracks leading to the pool edge and then lost them, but it is believed they had been made by searchers several days before. Also, the scene was Charles P. Hill, Chief Investigator, Arson Division, State Fire Marshal's Department, to whom the case was turned over to on Monday. Come on. Okay. Oh. All right. Moving on to the next one. You guys all have your beers or whatnot? For those of you, I gotta get something now. This too slow. Yeah. Awesome. Little gin and 7-Up. Cairo's favorite. I don't know if he's even around, but... So this sounds like it's the same as the other ones. Fragments of bones. So this is January 5th now, which is like 2 weeks later. Fragments of bones found in the cabin fire southeast of Brownstown, early morning Saturday, December 18th. Indicated there were 2 and only 2 bodies incinerated in the fire. Victor L. Burkholder, deputy coroner, who investigated the fire and issued the official report. He also said, "We are satisfied that the remains found were those of Stanley Ray Robeson, 17, and Jerry Allen Autry." However, Mr. Burkholder said this does not conclude that other departments are not continuing their investigation. Dr. Alcorn's report also set forth that according to his findings, 2 and only 2 persons had perished in the fire. The coroner's official report will leave unexplained the fate of Michael Sewell, 16. State police say that every available lead has been followed and every effort made to find the Sewell youth. Debris from the fire sent to state laboratory is being tested to see how it started. And it actually returned and it failed to turn up any evidence. Young Robeson, son of Mr. and Mrs. Raymond Friday Robeson, and Autry, son of Mr. and Mrs. Walton Autry, along with Sewell and Nick Hubbard, built the small cabin. So Nick Hubbard helped build it too. The one that dropped, who was there and saw, well, he's the one that drove Autry and Robeson there, apparently. It is known that the 4 went there several hours prior to the fatal fire, but that Hubbard left at about 3 o'clock. At that time, reportedly Sewell said he was going to bed since he had to work the next day. And he also said, Hubbard said that he saw him take his sweatshirt off. It also is known that he took with him to the cabin his alarm clock. And that's the one that froze at 3:35 from being burned. Yeah, so he was certain to wake up on time to report for work. After the fire was discovered about 8 o'clock Saturday morning, December 18th, by Robeson's sister, the entire area was searched over and over by officers from both the state police post and the county police department, along with several hundred volunteers, especially after officials said they felt certain only 2 persons perished in the ruins. The next Wednesday, scuba divers searched a pond at about 500 yards from the cabin on the theory that Sewell might have escaped the burning cabin and ran to the pond where he went into shock. Many Brownstown young people and youths from neighboring communities were known to be friends of the 3 boys have been questioned, but none was able to give authorities any information which in any way proved valuable. Meanwhile, the Sewell family hopes every time the telephone rings that it will bring them some information upon which they can build their hope that their son is alive. Are you guys still find it interesting? I just don't see any comments again related to anything that we're talking about. I'm going to have to honk the horn again. Where is it? Alright. Brownstown boy missing 3 weeks after the fire. Almost 3 weeks after the remains of 2 Brownstown boys were found in their burned out cabin, police in Jackson County are still searching for a 3rd teenager. Okay, so I think this one's pretty much... friends said the boys were proud of the cabin, which had no windows and only 1 door, so, that's sort of more what Dan was talking about. Along the west wall, they had fixed a wood-burning stove. Along the north wall, had a kerosene lantern hanging by the door and Coleman lantern, which they could move. Well, if they died of, carbon monoxide, though, like where is Sewell, Like where is he? According to Jackson County Sheriff report, all three were seen late December 17th at a wedding reception party at the Brownstown American Legion post for Robeson's sister, Gerda, after she married John Hartley Jr. Police reported stopping young Robeson. It's a little strange. Don't you think that Gerda Robeson married somebody within 4 months? Because it almost implies that they had known each other prior somehow, right? Because it seems like they would have known each other prior, because, unless you just, love at first sight and you got married right away, because it was only 4 months later. Other friends of the trio told police all three were at the cabin when they left at about 3 a.m. December 18th. The fire is believed to have started in the area of one of the beds. So that's kind of weird. So maybe, we could combine what Dan's saying, carbon monoxide, and then maybe when the person passed out, their arm knocked over a kerosene lantern and then started a fire. But then where did Sewell go, I guess? He's always kind of the mystery guy. The Jackson County Sheriff... other friends of the trio told police all three were at the cabin when they left at about 3 a.m. The fire is believed to have started in the area of one of the beds at about 3:30. The Jackson County Sheriff Department searched the area around the cabin about 1.5 miles south of Brownstown, but could only find conclusive evidence that two persons were in the cabin. The bodies were burned beyond recognition. Sewell's parents tried to delay the interment of the remains, saying they thought their son's possible death was being overlooked. I think I forgot how long all these are. I'm just going to try to... So now there's one about 5 weeks later. Okay, that one's shorter. So now they're looking for him. Police agencies in Jackson County and the State Fire Marshal Office are seeking Michael Sewell, 16, Brownstown, for questioning about a fire in which two of his companions died. It has been reported that Sewell, missing since the fire, December 18th, has been seen in recent days in Indianapolis and Columbus, Indiana. Charles P. Hill, an investigator for the State Fire Marshal, said he believes Sewell can help clear up the mystery surrounding the fire. Hill and other police request that anyone seeing Sewell report his whereabouts to police. The boy is 5 feet 5 inches tall and has brown hair and green eyes. Don't you hate all the red herrings that pop up in cases? It's crazy. His companion, Stanley A. Robeson, 17, of Rural Route 2, Brownstown, and Jerry Autry, 19, Brownstown, died in a fire which destroyed a small log cabin along White River, about a mile from the Robeson home in Jackson County. The three boys were last seen when they left a party at 2 a.m. on December 18th to spend the night in the cabin. Investigators said Sewell did not die in the fire. The cause of the fire has not been determined. All right, then 4 days later... the other case believed by police and parents to be drug-related involves, I'm not sure where this, involves the deaths of Stanley Robinson, Brownstown, and Jerry A. Autry, 17, both in a burning makeshift cabin, railroad ties. Michael William Sewell, 16 actually, was seen with the dead boys at a party several hours before the fire, but has been declared missing. Police were unable to question Sewell about the fire. They acknowledged reliable reports he was at Seymour during the last 2 months. Reports filed at the Jackson County Clerk's Office by Coroner Victor Burkholder said the ashes of the cabin contained the remains of only 2 boys and that the fire started from an unknown cause. The report said the remains did not include enough tissue that could be analyzed for the presence of drugs, but police said at least one of the boys possessed drugs according to other pupils. Yeah. All right, well. Yeah, it was like fisheye attached to that text there. It was weird. You know, it's weird is in March there was no articles at all. I could just skip right over. Brownstown mystery fire still unsolved. Yep, so let's see. The case of the mystery cabin fire. It is residents of the community of some 2,500 persons in Jackson County police officials puzzled. Exactly how they asked, did 3 Brownstown youths vanish after a fire? Well, they didn't all vanish. 2 of them were right there. The remains of 2 bodies have been identified as the cabin, or as in the cabin. A third is still unaccounted for after nearly 3 years. Oh wait, is that how long this is? Hold on. Yeah, I think this is this is 1974. So now this is 3 years later. The remains of the 2 bodies have been identified as in the cabin. A third is still unaccounted for. Louise Autry, Louis Sewell, and Mary Robinson, the mothers of all 3 youths believed to be inside the cabin at the time of the fire, are all in favor of an investigation of the incident by the Jackson County Grand Jury. The father of 2 of the youths, Walton Autry and Moses Sewell, also would not oppose a grand jury investigation. The third father, Raymond Robeson, could not be reached by the Republic for comment. The Robesons were divorced the year after the fire. Wow, what's going on with a lot of weird stuff going on with the Robesons there. Were divorced a year after the fire. Republic interviews with Mrs. Autry and Mrs. Robeson were their first interviews by newspapers since the fire. The fire is still under investigation by the Indiana State Police. Sergeant Richard D. Barker and Sergeant James C. Blevins have done the bulk of the investigation. The Jackson County Sheriff's Department helped with the initial stages of the inquiry. The Indiana State Fire Marshal's Department investigated for 2 days and still considers the case open. The grand jury has never been called to investigate, presumably because police investigation have thus far produced no evidence of homicide. All the parents except Mr. Robeson, who could not be reached for comment by the Republic, feel all 3 boys are dead. See, that's the thing, is there's 2 sets of remains, so nobody is really sure now, just because they found the rings, right? The Autry and Robeson's youth were identified by remains of personal belongings found inside the cabin. Included among the belongings were 2 class rings, presumably belonging to Autry and Robeson. Police have given Autry's ring back to the family. Police apparently have in their possession the ring attributed to Robeson. For Mrs. Robeson says she has not seen the ring since the day of the fire. The Autry family believes their son died in the fire. Mrs. Robeson feels her son died in the fire and said she believes the Sewell youth did not die in the cabin, but somewhere outside the cabin soon after the fire. The Sewell family says it will testify they have not heard from their son since the day of the fire. Police have found no positive evidence of a third body. The thinly wooded area surrounded the cabin or in the waters of probably the pond. I gotta open this back up again. Come on. Jeez. Yeah, we've talked about all the theories and stuff like that. I mean, there was 2 other people there before. How do we know? See, that's the whole thing is there's no witnesses alive to say anything. So the 2 guys that were there before, what do they know? I'd like to hear what they know. I mean, we hear what they say they know, but you know. Hey, thanks, Tina Souser. Man. So a small pond located near the cabin. The cabin was situated about a quarter mile from the main house of the Robeson farm. Really? So now it's a quarter mile from the Robeson main house? Hell, I don't even know where to look for that. The cabin dimensions were 9 feet by 15 long and 6 feet high, so really short ceilings. It was constructed by at least 2 of the vanished youths and other youths beginning about a month before the fire. We thought it would be a nice place to bring chicks, one person who worked on the cabin said. Probably that other kid. The cabin was made from fresh, creosote-coated railroad ties which formed the walls and floor, sheet metal and vinyl floor covering. There were some sheet metals on the floor. Inside were a wood-burning stove, a Coleman camping lantern, and at least 1 container of flammable liquid. Witnesses reported seeing the fire at 3:30 a.m. as they were driving south on Road 135. They did not report it. And other witnesses reportedly saw the fire at about 4 a.m. and did nothing. The sheriff's department received the first call reporting the fire at 8:20. I mean, what a bunch of idiots out there. Really, I mean, what are you doing? You see a fire at 3:30, you don't call? I mean, here's one problem. What makes it a lot easier today to call right away? Well, it's the cell phones, okay? I mean, nobody had cell phones back then. So, like at 4 in the morning, you'd have to drive somewhere, pull into a... Yeah, that's crazy. The 3 youths were last seen alive at 2:40 a.m. by one of 3 other youths believed to be... How come that number keeps changing? It was 3 o'clock. Now it's 2:40. The witness told police he handed wood through the only door of the cabin to Sewell youth. He also told police the Robeson and Autry youths were preparing for bed as he was leaving. Man, see, before it was... You saw Sewell preparing for bed. He says, "Oh, I'm tired and I'm going to bed," and then he takes off his sweatshirt. Now you're saying the complete opposite of that you handed firewood to Sewell and the other 2 boys were going to sleep. See how this gets crazy? That's exactly, completely opposite. Earlier we had the sister who got married say that she drove Autry and Robeson to the cabin, and then later it turns out some other kid drove Robeson and Sewell to the party, and Autry got there in his own vehicle. Man, that kind of stuff really sets red flags off. I mean, how many times do you tell a story that's completely different? Yeah, it could also be terrible reporting, but I don't know. The Sewell and Autry claims the cabin area was not roped off immediately after the fire. A sister to one of the boys said the scene was like a circus. People were picking up things and putting them in their pockets. Water was sprayed on charred remains of the cabin before police could search the inside. Because of the stream of heat radiated by the metal roofs, eventually the inside of the cabin was sifted for human remains. The state fire marshal report filed by Chief Arson Investigator, who since retired from the department, speculates the fire was caused by a lantern overturning and setting one of the 2 sleeping bags or some part of the beds on fire. The fire then spread to a gallon plastic container of flammable liquid, probably white gasoline, and then to a metal container of flammable liquids, And then we watched the Ancient Alien show. There may have been an explosion. Hill spent 2 days of investigation and interviewed 10 persons in connection with the incident. Yeah, I mean, if it did hit a gallon jug of gasoline, it would have blown up, you know. Yeah. Let's see what this one says. Fire started long before it was reported. Right, because it wasn't reported till 8:30. Yeah. One of the most unusual facts surrounding the fire at the small cabin south of here 2.5 years ago concerns the long period between the minutes the fire might have started to the minute it was reported to police. It was reported at 8:20 a.m. Saturday, December 18, 1971, to the Jackson County Sheriff's Department by Mrs. John Hartley. Oh, wow. A sister of... Wait a minute. Wait, John Hartley, a sister of Stanley Ray Robeson. I'm trying to... Mrs. John... Oh, yeah. So this is the... Right, so that's the sister, right? So she went there to pick him up to help. That makes sense. It's actually Gerda... what is it? Gerda Robeson is Mrs. John Hartley, a sister of Stanley Robeson. State police were notified at 8:35 a.m., but by then at least one other police officer was at the scene. 3 Brownstown youths, Jerry Allen, Autry 19, Robeson 17, and Michael William Sewell 16, were believed to be inside the cabin at the time of the fire. Funerals were held for Autry and Robeson on December 21st. Sewell was declared missing. The fire was estimated to have started at 2:40 a.m. Oh, now it starts at 2:40. So the guy at 3 o'clock was looking at him, and they're just putting on, getting ready for bed as the fire's raging. Isn't that just ridiculous? At least 3 persons saw the fire between 3:30 a.m. and 4:30 a.m. Two, probably the first witness, saw the cabin blazing from a car as they were traveling south on Road 135. That was actually 435. The cabin was situated in a thinly wooded area no more than a half mile from the highway and about a quarter mile from the home of Mary Robeson. Isn't that the home right there? So that would be like a quarter mile. I think that might be right. So I think this is kind of how we figured it out after a while. So that's 0.24, and then I think this is a half mile. Let's see. I think that's why I have this measured. Well, that's 0.4, but pretty close. Yeah. Anyways, that is pretty crazy that nobody reported it. And there's some more. There's some of that metal they were talking about. Yeah, well, there's a whole bunch more in this one. I'm going to skip around, but Autry and a girlfriend he had dated regularly for 4 years rode together in Autry's Ford Thunderbird convertible earlier in the evening. They had been invited to the wedding reception for Mrs. Hartley, held at the Brownstown American Legion home, but decided not to attend. They did stop at 2 other parties in town where they saw Mike Sewell and Stan Robinson. Autry and Robeson supposedly had several conversations that evening. Autry apparently took his girlfriend home at about midnight, then headed back in the direction of Brownstown. On his way, he stopped at the cabin. Sewell, Robeson, and 2 other youths were already there. Okay, so Autry was the last one to show up. After Autry's arrival, the five got in Robeson's Ford Mustang and headed for the American Legion, where they hoped to pick up some refreshments. Remember, and that's where his sister apparently was supposed to give them some. An officer in the sheriff's department remembers following the Robeson vehicle from the area near the cabin to the Legion home. He followed the car because of possible curfew violations, but instead watched the car stop at the Legion home and decided otherwise. The officer then went to the Jackson County Jail. The five youths apparently picked up the refreshments and headed back to the cabin. See now we got a whole nother story now. Soon after, Autry and Sewell apparently got into the... Well, I guess that could be... Did Autry have somebody in the car with him? Or did that Humphrey guy who took Robeson and Sewell there have another person? The five youths apparently picked up the refreshments and headed back to the cabin. Soon after, Autry and Sewell apparently got into Autry's car. Soon after, Autry and Sewell apparently got in... Wait. Okay, so now Sewell went with Autry. I mean, do you get what I'm saying here? Earlier, Sewell and Robeson got a ride with that Humphrey kid. Now, all of a sudden, Autry and Sewell... Soon after, Autry and Sewell apparently got into Autry's car and went back into town. Okay, remember, okay, this is that weird part. So this is stuff that is strange now. So look at... So I guess Autry has his own car, right? And then Sewell got into that car and went back into town to pick up Autry's contact lens case at his home. All right, really? Lois Autry, Jerry Allen's mother, remembers Sewell coming in the house. So Lois Autry, Jerry Allen's mother. I don't know who Jerry Allen is. Remembers Sewell coming in the house and getting the case. So Sewell ran in to get the case. She speculated Autry was driving and simply let Sewell run into the house. When Autry drove back to the cabin, he parked the car with the headlights facing the only door in the cabin on the south wall of the cabin. This was a common practice because the cabin had no outside lighting. The other two youths in the Robeson car, who supposedly were the last two to leave the cabin, confirmed the location of Autry's car before they left. When the fire was discovered that morning, Autry's car was on the other side of the cabin, near the northeast section of the building, on the other side of the fence. Yeah, it's hard to even know we can't know anything about where any of this stuff is, but the northeast would be over here, south side of the cabin, maybe they drove up. I'm not even sure how you get there, to be honest with you. Is there a little road right there? Let me go down there. Yeah, because the cabin was right out there, I think. Right? No, it's right there, that way. Okay, straight down that line there. So there is a road there. Well, kind of. I mean... yeah, that just goes to there. So it's sort of just straight out. I don't even know how they would have got there. I don't know, Aaron Bell, but we're just kind of going over a case, Have you noticed that? There was no evidence the car had been near the cabin while the fire was in progress. When the fire was discovered that morning, Autry's car was on the other side of the cabin near the northeast section of the building. There was no evidence the car had been near the cabin while the fire was in progress. So somebody moved that car. See, here's the thing. Those guys left. They're saying now at 2:40, but let's just say it was 3 from like we knew before. So when those people left, Autry's car was still parked in front of the house and they left. And they were getting ready for bed. And then after the fire occurs, they get there, and Autry's car has been moved all the way around the other side of the house at that point. Isn't that weird? Like, who moved that damn thing? I mean, Autry got out. Why would he move it? I mean, the lights are there to beam inside the house, and it's easy to get to. It's right in front of the door. You can get to it the next day. And then all of a sudden, you wake up the next morning after the fire burns them all the way to the ground. The car is way over. Somewhere else. That's a strange thing there. According to Mrs. Autry, the car was not searched by police. And there was no evidence the car was near the fire because there was nothing melted or anything. According to Mrs. Autry, the car was not searched by police, nor was it dusted for fingerprints. A relative of the Autry family drove the car to the Autry residence from the cabin about noon on the day of the fire. The keys were in the car when police arrived at the cabin. Mrs. Autry said the oil... What if somebody... let's see, how was the door... What if they moved the car right in front of the door at one point to keep them in? And then once it started burning everybody, then he moved the car somewhere else. Because it wouldn't have been hot enough outside to do anything to the car at that point. Mrs. Autry said the oil pan under the car had been split and there was visible evidence it had been driven on rough terrain. It looked like, to me, someone was in a hurry, she said. Mrs. Autry also said the driver car seat had been adjusted out of its normal position. And remember, guess what? Sewell's small. He's only 5'5". Ms. Autry said Jerry Allen normally sat all the way back in the car seat. A Letterman football player, the Brownstown Central High School, he was 6 feet 1 inch. She told the Republic that when she first found the seat, it had been moved all the way forward. Mrs. Autry said the relative who drove the car did not adjust the seat. Robeson and Sewell were each about 6 feet 8. Nah, Sewell's 5'5", remember? A scorched blanket along with a package of cigarettes were found outside the cabin. So that's crazy, right? So now there's a scorched blanket outside the cabin. So could that have been something Sewell had? A few cigarette butts, apparently fresh, also were found at the base of a tree outside the cabin. So somebody sat there smoking a cigarette, blissfully listening to the screams of people inside the cabin, it sounds like. Mrs. Robinson said she has been told another bedspread, also scorched, was found on the bank of the White River less than a mile from the cabin. How crazy is that? Another scorched blanket. There also is unusual evidence surrounding the 2 class rings used to identify the charred bodies as Autry and Sewell. 2 persons told the Republic Autry was not wearing his ring the night of the fire. Oh, man. Oh, jeez. They need to test those bodies, man. They did not know if he might have been carrying the ring in his pocket. One witness last night saw Autry at 12:30 a.m. The other had seen him about an hour earlier. The ring used to identify Robeson apparently is still in the possession of state police. Mrs. Sewell, mother of Mike, believes her son is dead, not missing, although his body has not been accounted for since the fire. She speculates the ring used to identify Robeson is not his. It is her theory the ring might belong to a sister of Mike. The sister told her mother she noticed her ring missing the day of the fire. Oh boy. Mrs. Sewell says Mike liked to wear jewelry and might have put on his sister's ring the day of the fire. Police also have been told it was a common occurrence for all 3 of the boys to trade around rings, watches, and other jewelry. Oh boy. Yeah, I think they got to test those identify the bodies. You know, make sure you know who you're talking about. This unreal. Coroner ends probe. Official ruling from the Jackson County Coroner's office concerning the deaths of 2 Brownstown youths in a cabin fire early Saturday morning, December 18th, was released today. Victor L. Burkholder, deputy coroner, said his official report lists the deaths of 2 boys as accidental deaths by incineration. We are satisfied that the remains found were those of Stanley Robeson and Jerry Allen Autry. Oh, Jerry Allen, that's who they were talking about earlier. This ruling ends the coroner's part of the investigation, Burkholder said, unless some new concrete evidence should be presented. However, he added, this does not prevent the other offices from continuing their investigation. What was this? This is old. Yeah, this is. I was thinking, didn't you already do that? All right. So now we got. There's a letter to the editor in one of these. Now this is from Sewell right here. See, the parents. So let's see what this says. Concerning the cabin fire, and this is 1974, May 1st. Concerning the cabin fire on December 18, 1971, on Friday, Robeson's place in Jackson County, pathology report stated only 2 people perished in the fire. 1 boy missing, Michael William Sewell. Mike Sewell was our boy, and our belief is that all 3 boys died in the fire. We haven't been able to get a grand jury investigation because 2 rings found in the fire indicated to authorities that let me ask you this. Given the amount of bones they found, what if they found 3 rings in the fire? Would they have said all 3 died in the fire? Or did the bones have nothing to do with it? See, that's what's a little bit weird about this thing. We haven't been able to get a grand jury investigation because 2 rings found in the fire indicated to the authorities that the remains found were those of Jerry Autry and Stanley Robeson. Mike did not have a class ring yet. Oh, but what if he had one and he borrowed one from the sister? The original investigation was handled in the worst possible way. The area was not roped off until hours later, and people walked all over the site picking up anything they could find for a souvenir. The pathologist reached this conclusion at about an hour and a half after the coroner had said it would probably take a week. Also, the coroner's report stated the possibility of a 3rd person being cremated, but as far as we know, this was never printed in the paper. Our reference in a recent newspaper article to our daughter's ring wasn't that the one the police... Let me see. Our reference in a recent newspaper article to our daughter's ring wasn't that the one the police did not belong to Stanley Robeson, but we felt if they searched further they might find a 3rd one if it hadn't already been picked up by someone that day. That's funny, I was just talking about a 3rd ring. At the time our daughter missed her ring, we didn't even consider the possibility of Mike maybe taking it to wear. It only just occurred to us recently because of a close friend telling us that Mike wanted a ring very badly that year for Christmas. We had never seen the rings found and thought it might be a good idea to take a look at them. We feel we're more than entitled to a grand jury investigation, which were refused some months ago by the prosecutor because we don't have any concrete evidence. Well, they surely don't have much either, since all they have done is to say Mike got out of the fire, and they are constantly accusing us of knowing of his whereabouts, which is not true. This is a favorite pastime of Sergeant Barker of the Seymour State Police Post and possibly several other people working on the case. Also, periodic newspaper reports say they have reliable sources with quotes that Mike has been seen. We recently spent 3 days trying to track this down, but of course everyone denied it came from them, and it turned out to be just another false rumor. We found that it did come from the state police. How much one family must endure before receiving some kind of help in getting to the truth. I don't know, but we have stood all we can, and we'll get something done one way or another, and get better answers than we have now. The police admit they suspect foul play. Let me just say, doesn't it still bother you guys about the what's her name? Mrs. Robeson, Gerda, she actually said that she drove, I think it was Robeson and Sewell, I think it was. No, Robeson and Autry to the, I think that's what it was, to the cabin. Maybe it was what I first said. And then later it turns out that had nothing to do with anything. I mean, you said you got them refreshments and a sandwich. I mean, it was really specific stuff. And then it's completely different later. I'm not saying, like, oh, wow, the sister's got some weird nefarious angle. But I mean, how does stuff like that change? It's just so vastly different. The police admit they suspect foul play. This alone should suggest the need of a thorough investigation. Not just a lot of theories, which is all they have come up with so far. We'd appreciate all the backing we can get from anyone concerned. Yeah, so that was Sewell's parents. Oh yeah, and this is like a map of like how the cabin was. Path from the road. Yeah, I don't know what the path looked like back then, but so sleeping bag, the daybed, the couch, that's the front door, and that's where Autry's car before the fire, and then it was found over here, but actually we got to rotate this around. That's actually how it would look. So if we were going like this, apparently the cabin is something, well, we could actually put it here. So it's something like this. I mean, I'm not going to do the, well, how big did they say it was? 8 by 15 or something like that? 9 by 15? Oh, it's not even. So I'll just put it in here. Come on. Where's the... I want that one. There we go. Feet. It's 28 feet. I mean, this thing is tiny. 9 by 32. It's 15 though. Oh, we'll just have to eyeball it. So if that's 9, then that's probably, let's see, 9. It's probably like that. Okay, so something about like that. 9 by 15. Yeah, I already said that. So it's really small, in reality, like that. And then apparently the car before the fire was right here. So there was a door right there. So this is where the car was before the fire. That's where he parked it. And then after the fire, when the police showed up, it was right here. So it's Autry's car after fire. So it was right there, and remember the seat was pulled way up, and the keys were in the ignition. Wow. So an approximate floor plan of the small cabin near the Brownstown, which was destroyed by the fire. Started in the area between the two beds. So, like right in this area is where the fire started. And there was a room divider made of nylon. Man, that could have caught fire real easily too, right? Like a nylon. Well, I don't think the parents are ever going to look at the rings. They just assumed. I mean, it's really lame. That's really terrible sort of investigative work to just go, yeah, well, there was rings over there, and since they were old enough to have the rings and they had rings, then it's got to be them. I mean, but it sounds like they were really almost incinerated too, all the way, so. Drug abuse factor in fire that killed youths. This is 1974 in May. Brownstown, is the common denominator drug abuse? Can you rightfully connect drugs to the unanswered question about the 2 deaths and 1 disappearance in the cabin fire of December 18th, 1971, and another death last March 22nd? As Assistant Principal James T. Blevins was shot in the Brownstown Central High School parking lot. Should drugs and their abuse also be tied to other unsolved deaths? Not seen since the cabin fire 2.5 years ago are 3 Brownstown youths, Jerry Allen, Autry 19, Stanley Ray Robinson, and Michael Sewell. All were believed to have been inside on the night the tiny cabin railroad ties burned into an intensely hot blaze, but coroners say they found remains of only 2 bodies. The dead were identified as Autry and Robeson, and Sewell was listed as missing. He still is. Some residents feel the link between Blevins' death and the fire is drug abuse. Evidence has been shown of drug use by David Leon Fleetwood, the 17-year-old youth who charged with the rifle shooting of Blevins. I don't know. I'm going to skip over this thing here. That seems more like a political kind of a ethical piece instead of really like going to be hardcore information. Anything in here? Let me check this part out down here. The other ring reportedly was found in the same area. Let me go through. The Jackson County Deputy Coroner Victor Buckholder and Madison pathologist and the State Fire Marshal are all agree there were 2 fatalities in the fire. There was no evidence to support the belief a 3rd person perished. Autry and Robeson were identified through high school class rings inside the cabin. 2 persons close to Autry, however, told the Republic that he was not wearing his ring the night of the fire. They did not know if someone else might have been wearing the ring or if Autry was carrying the ring in his pocket. Neither the coroner, a local funeral director. I wonder if Autry is still out there. You ever wonder about that? Nor a jeweler could confirm that the other ring belonged to Robeson. They could never tell. The jeweler identified the Autry ring shortly after the fire, or Robeson, I guess. State police still have the ring believed to be Robeson's. The ring believed to be Autry's was found along the base of the south wall of the cabin, protected by the bed springs and sheltered in a slight crevice near the foundation made of railroad ties. The other ring reportedly was found in the same area. The deputy coroner first believed Autry died on the north bed because police and the investigators found large bone fragments and more remains in that area. At 6 feet 1 inch, Autry was about 5 or 6 inches taller than the other 2 youths. After discovering of Autry's ring near the south bed, however, the coroners reversed his decision and said Autry died near the south bed where the ring was found. Dr. Merritt Alcorn Jr., the Madison pathologist who aided Burkholder at... See how it's all just about the rings, you know? Like, almost like they have no other information, just, oh, the rings, you know? The dancing rings, you know, oh, they were over here. Oh, yeah, well, we were wrong a minute ago because now it looks like the ring was over here. So it must be this guy. Yeah, jeez. Okay. Fire alters families' lives. It is a sad situation indeed, but tragically one which may never be resolved. The lives of 3 Brownstown families, Jerry and Lois Autry, Raymond and Mary Robeson, and Moses and Lois Sewell, all longtime residents of the county seat of Jackson County here, have never been the same since that cold winter night in 1971. Each family lost a son that night. One has never been found. The 3 youths, Jerry Allen Autry, 19, Stanley Ray Robeson, 17, and Michael William Sewell, 16, all friends and schoolmates at Brownstown Central High School, were inside a small cabin on December 18th when it burned to the ground. It was an extremely intense fire. It was so hot it nearly cremated the 2 bodies that were found inside. Authorities immediately declared the bodies were Autry and Robeson. Their declarations were far from conclusive. Authorities later said they used jewelry as the only means of identification. There you go. See? The Sewell youth, he must have somehow escaped the blaze, most authorities thought. He will soon return and tell us all what happened. It has been 2.5 years, and Michael William Sewell has never returned. Mr. and Mrs. Sewell swear that they haven't seen their son since the day of the fire. Give us a lie detector test, they urge. They believe he is dead. His body unrecovered, Mrs. Sewell speculates. Her son was killed either immediately after the outbreak of the fire, perhaps by drowning in White River near here, or he has died since the fire. The Autrys and Robesons, too, believe their sons are dead, but the 2 families have lived in anguish since, wanting to know exactly what... There we go. We're getting near, closer to the end. We're going to be creeping into the 3-hour mark, so don't forget to support your local YouTube channels. Yeah. I know I'm doing the reading thing again, but like I said, you notice when I'm reading how you can have hour-long gaps where nobody's enthusiastic? We went over that last night. It's crazy how that works. They ask, what is the accident as the state fire marshal report says, or perhaps what is arson? Indiana State Police Sergeant Richard Barker and James Blevins, of the chief investigators for the last 2.5 years, don't know who to believe. A most perplexing case, one says. They've lost sleep over this one, adds their commanding officer at the Seymour Post, Lieutenant Robert Pond. We feel the 3rd body in the fire is missing, Pond says. We have to assume Sewell is still alive. About the only thing we can do at this point is sit back and keep our fingers crossed that something develops. We will never close the case until we know exactly what happened. The 3 families, meanwhile, have exhausted practically all resources at finding out the answers. Along the way, it has been painful. Lois Autry, for instance, has been the subject of 4 anonymous telephone calls since the fire, all coming in October of 1972. Each call specifically asked for her son. The caller asked for Jerry Allen, not Jerry, my husband, he says. Each time the caller was told Jerry Allen has been killed about a year ago. The Autry youth's girlfriend at the time of the fire also received anonymous calls asking for the boy. Mrs. Autry relates another incident when a neighbor told her about a year and a half ago that she spotted a person running from the Autry youth's automobile parked at the rear of Autry's home. The car had been at the site of the fire and in fact was moved while the fire was in progress. Police do not know by whom. The same neighbor also told Mrs. Autry she spotted another person coming from the then vacant Autry home shortly after the first sighting. The person was in a hurry, the neighbor told her. Miss Autry has told the Republic she believes she knows who the person spotted exiting from her home was, and she believes the person knows some detail about the fire which the person has never told police. So that's another crazy thing right there. State police have questioned this person more than once. The Republic has interviewed this person on one occasion. The Sewell family, meanwhile, has lived in a world of false reports and false hopes since the fire. For example, Mrs. Sewell recently picked up an edition of the Indianapolis Star that carried a report saying a reliable source spotted her son alive in Seymour. The Star has since admitted it was a false report, similar to reports Mrs. Sewell had received from other sources. The latest report came this week when the Republic was told the youth had been seen at Schneck Memorial Hospital in Seymour. The Jackson County Grand Jury probably will never be called to investigate the fire. Jackson County Prosecutor Jeffrey Neerman, in a prepared statement received by the Republic May 14th, explained the grand jury was never convened the days following the fire. Thanks, Jessica Schubach.
Ocean wave.
And thanks for all the ones that
Ocean wave.
consider it, helping out the channel. Like seems like every night. I always feel bad. Be cool if there was more democratic, but hey, thank you. So over here, I wonder what it's really saying. This part over here was interesting. The Autry youth's girlfriend at the time of the fire also received anonymous. Okay, Mrs. Autry relates another incident when a neighbor told her about a year and a half ago, so that was way after the fire, that she spotted a person running from the Autry youth's automobile parked at the rear of the Autry's home. So, yeah, so that's weird. The car had been at the site of the fire and in fact was moved while the fire was in progress. The same neighbor also told Mrs. Autry she spotted another person coming from the then vacant Autry home shortly after the first sighting. So you see somebody running from the car, they went into the home. The person was in a hurry, the neighbor told her. That's weird because remember the story about Autry took Sewell to his house and Sewell ran in to grab the contact lenses. Hey, thanks for trying, Jessica. All right, let me get to the next one there. So now here's a letter by the Autry parent. Another letter to the editor here. So, and this is by the parent. The writer of this letter, Louise Autry, is the mother of Jerry Allen Autry, who at the age of 19, hey, thank you, Carolina T. All right. I'm trying to figure out what I'm supposed to do when I'm on my trip for our shows, I feel like I would feel weird not doing shows. I guess what I could do is after the... I don't know. I'm not really sure how to do it. It just throws everything off. Thanks, Carolina T. All right. Who at the age of 19 was Nikki 124. Thank you. Yeah, I'm trying to like get a head start because I feel like when I'm on the trip, it takes up about 6 days. So I don't know how good the shows are going to be, and people are going to. So we're going to be down quite a bit, and I'm gonna be there on our donation night. So I'm gonna have to try to figure out a way to just like do it, like maybe I'll sit in my booth late at night and do our normal night, I guess. What do you mean half-hour shows? How does that work? It takes 30 minutes for everyone to say hello to everybody. Okay. So anyways, the writer of this letter, Louise Autry, is the mother of Jerry Allen Autry, who at the age of 19 was believed to have been one of 2 Brownstown youths perished in a cabin fire. So notice how they use words like believed to be. The cause of the fire and exactly who died in the fire are still unknown. 3 youths were inside the cabin at the time, and only 2 have been accounted for. Possibly, though, right? Autry and Stanley Ray Robeson, 17. Michael William Sewell, 16, also of Brownstown, is still missing. How can 3 boys disappear from the face of the earth? Well, they didn't, right? I mean, it's weird how they keep saying that. With no living person knowing how or what happened. This is the question we have been living with for almost 3 years. The simple truth is that they can't. Some person or persons in our immediate locality know exactly what happened to Jerry Allen, Stan Robeson, and Mike Sewell. The prosecutor says there is no evidence of foul play. I would wonder how much evidence he needs. Maybe there is none against any one person who could be proven guilty, but it is an insult to our intelligence to assume the only thing that happened the night of December 18th was that a lantern simply overturned. There was nothing to burn quickly near the lantern. Smolder, yes, probably for hours, but remember the fire was well in progress within probably 45 minutes. Then, of course, there was the small matter of Jerry's car being moved during the fire, brought back. Why? And by whom? Why were we asked if our son owned a gun? Well, that's interesting, yeah. Thanks, Patty Barnett. That is kind of interesting. Did he own a gun? Why would they ask that? I wonder if they found spent bullets there or something like that.
Wait for DNA testing. Cherry blossom. Broken heart. Cherry blossom.
Yeah, that's just the troll stuff. He always just does these little things. Real childish. The unreported sightings of the fire is another little thing we don't worry about too much. All of these things added to the phone calls, etc., after the fire have added up to 3 years of torture for us. At this point, I would like to make it clear that I'm speaking for myself, not for the other families or for Mr. J.D. Lewis, whom I respect very much. Without his hard and diligent work, there would have been some things that I never would have known about this case. I hope he knows how much I appreciate his articles in the Republic. Whether or not drugs were involved seemed to be a big thing with everyone concerned. To me, it's almost immaterial. Yeah, I think so too, unless drugs is why somebody did something to them. I feel that my son's record stands for itself. According to everyone who investigated the case, including Mr. Lewis and an insurance investigator, no one ever said he used drugs. His big fault was that he thought he could take the responsibilities of the world on his shoulders. He hated the drug culture and had at least 2 arguments with a known pusher when they had met at Valonia Beach. The last one just a week or 2 before the fire. He was tough. Let me see. He hated the drug culture and had at least 2 arguments with a known pusher. Well, there you go. I mean, maybe that's the drug connection. When they had met at Valonia Beach, the last one just a week or 2 before the fire. He was tough, absolutely fearless, but very vulnerable and tender-hearted. He told me many times he wasn't afraid to die for what, I guess, what he believes in. It doesn't continue on. Kind of weird. I wonder if it went over another column. Shoot. Oh no. It's weird. It must be like over here. Is this in? Let me try. Let me just see if I can find that in like 2 seconds. Can't leave that one. I always like the letters from the editors from the parents. You get a lot of information. So this would have, what would we be looking up? Jerry Allen Autry. There we go. Jerry Allen Autry. And this is July 9th, 1974. So 1974. It doesn't work. July, Indiana. And it's on the 9th. There it is. And there it is. Okay. Oh yeah, well, it was way over here, so I missed it. I thought that was it right there. He told me many times he wasn't afraid to die for what he believed in, and I think that is exactly what he did. In case you're wondering why an insurance investigator was involved, we collected $500 on the Robeson homeowner's insurance on the advice of a friend who also happens to be an attorney. We did not, as Mrs. Robeson stated, get part of Stan Robeson's insurance, nor would we have accepted it and had it been offered. I know someday, somehow, the truth will come out. It is my earnest prayer that anyone with any information, no matter how small it may seem to them, would have the courage to go to the police and tell them, if this goes unsolved, no one is safe, especially our young people who should be very important to us right now. For example, my 15-year-old son's life was threatened twice last winter. The prosecutor told me nothing could be done unless a criminal act was actually committed. Is this justice? You guessed it. The threats were made by 2 young drug users. How many young people and their parents will have to suffer before the laws are enforced? If I have caused one parent or young person to stop and think about what is happening in our area, a small part of our suffering will have been worthwhile. If not, something is terribly wrong. Thanks again, Mr. Lewis and the Republic. Lois Autry. Yeah. And then that was July 1974. Now they would have woken up sleuthing sandals. Like if you're asleep and smoke's coming in, you don't just keep sleeping. You know, you wake up, oh my God, you know, you're... Somebody would have. Out of the 3, I just don't buy it. Anyways, where's we on this one? Here's the 1975 one. This is just in memory of Jerry Allen Autry, called suddenly home December 18th, 1971. We have been through the valley of weeping, the valley of sorrow and pain, but the God of all comfort was with us, at hand uphold and sustain. So we'll follow wherever he leadeth, yet let the path be dreary or bright, for we've proven that God can give comfort. That was just in the paper in 1975, and then 1985, we got another one. Yeah, so it says something about another fire. This one near Brownstown left 2 teenagers dead and a lot of questions unanswered. On the morning of December 18, 1971, friends Stanley Ray Robeson, 17, Jerry Allen Autry, 19, and Michael Sewell, 16, were staying in a cabin they helped build about a mile south of Brownstown. A few other friends were over for a party, the last one leaving at about 2:40 a.m. after helping Sewell carry firewood into the cabin. At about 3:30 a.m., someone saw a fire in the area of the cabin. However, it wasn't until 8:20 a.m. When Robeson's sister came by to pick them up to help clean up the reception hall that someone called the sheriff's department. That morning, investigators found the remains of 2 young men they later determined to be Robeson and Autry. Police believe Sewell survived, but he hasn't been seen since. Our official report says one of the 3 did not burn up in there, says Detective Jim Blevins of the Indiana State Police, one of the investigators in the case. Blevins said one woman swears she saw Sewell out west after the fire and even talked to him. We tend to believe she probably did. But Blevins isn't convinced any wrongdoing occurred that night. That one could easily not be a murder case. It could be an accidental fire. Right, so if it's an accidental fire, why would Sewell disappear forever? And that one guy was... here we go. And that one guy, Sewell, was scared or was incapacitated by alcohol or drugs. And he did something rash, like run, and he's been afraid to come back. That's total... What a load of shit. Yeah. That doesn't make any sense. Yeah, we don't know how tall the beds were. They just had where they were located. Here's a picture of the beds here. They were just like this. 9 feet by 15, 6 feet high ceilings. There was a divider made of nylon over here, then a throw rug, a wood-burning stove, a couch with bed sheets so you could sleep 3 people in here. And Autry's car was parked here when the 2 people left at 2:40. Autry's car was parked right here facing, and this is north. You have to rotate the image counterclockwise to get it correct. But, Autry's car was parked by the front door, and then when the fire burnt the house, the next day the car was on the other side of the house, and the seat was moved way up, and the key was in the ignition. So it kind of makes me think, in some ways, that somebody... So there was a window over here on hinges. So wouldn't that have been something easy to get out? An unfinished window on hinges. So couldn't they have just got out that? I don't know. Yeah. Maybe the car though was moved to block the door, and when the fire started, then after the fire burnt the house, the person moved the car back to the other side of the house for some reason. Or maybe even used the car, then came back and put the car there, Who knows? Anyways, that's it, you guys. So now we know the story again, and we can get a hold of the lieutenant sheriff down there. Maybe we can get some of the people involved to come on and talk about the case. Wouldn't you guys be interested in discussing that with people that might still be around about it? I mean, that would be freaking amazing, wouldn't it? Yeah, I think it'd be awesome. Yeah, and let me see if I can find the email. It was so crazy. I was like, I tried to show him. I go, well, this is... I think I asked him, where was the map? I mean, where was the cabin in the email? And let me see if I can find that. No, he sent me a few emails here. Oh, and also thank you to Miss Angels on PayPal there. Thank you. Thanks, Gray, for all these interesting cases you bring light to and all the updates. We appreciate all your work and hours you put in. P.S. Will Mary Lou be going to CrimeCon? I don't know if she'll make it there or not. I'm not sure. Maybe, though. I might have to try to get Mary Lou down there. I don't know. I don't know, Mike. Let's see. Oh yeah, I was checking out my email. Somebody sends me an email at 8:14 to tell me about, hey, Gray, there's 4 people shot in a... Yeah, we know. We covered it. Let me see. Yeah, look at this. So I asked him, I go, where was the cabin? Look at this right here. Look at this. I said, where was the cabin? He gave me an email back with a blue dot on it. And then look at this. That's exactly where we had it. Just based on the can you see that? Look. You know, just based on the information in the paper, after going over it a million different times, we settled on that spot. And I thought, like, wow, look at that. It's amazing. I mean, it was such poor stuff, but the way they described it kind of... Yeah, this one would be cool. I would love to fund this one just to identify the 2 bodies that they believe. If they cremated those final bit of remains, then we're screwed. If they buried them, the little bit of bones that they did find, then... And what they need to actually do, though, is take out the bones from both graves and have a current modern forensic anthropologist try to determine, you know, what's going on here. I mean, whose bones are these? You know, like, I mean, you don't want fragments of another person with the other person, right? I wouldn't. But come on, how cool would that be, you guys? We could do it. Man, I wish I had like $1 million to just do these, fund everything I could possibly fund. Yeah. See, the only thing that really matters to me is, at this point, is they only found 2 rings, and that's the sole reason that they claimed that there was these 2 bodies. I mean, who they were, right? Like, oh yeah, this is so-and-so, and this is so. This is Autry, and this is Robeson. Okay, but there's no forensic information whatsoever. Yeah, but we're talking about this case right now. Yeah. Yeah, we're doing this one right now. I don't know if you noticed. You can send me an email on the other one, though. That'd be good. I'm not sure what you're saying, Dolan Dawson. Yeah, like you mean about the rings? Yeah, that's totally too many. Yeah, it's crazy, right? Susanna MacGillipadrick. We can sit there and talk about Summer Wells every second of every day for the next 6 years. And yet there's these other cases out there. It's unreal.
This channel has the most thought-provoking cold case content.
Yeah, I think I got everybody in here. Yeah, thanks for the nice comment there, Susanna. Yeah, I mean, this is one that's, I mean, because it changes the entire dynamic if you realize that, wow, no, that, one of those bodies was Sewell. We can't find any remains from, like, Robeson, for example, or Autry, or then you have to do a completely different type of investigation where you're looking at, you know, what elements, you know, all the elements about that person. Instead, they spent all that time looking at Sewell, basing it on just 2 rings found. Oh, you must be on rewind mode. Pink Lady Luck's on rewind mode at this point. She's listening about I was wondering what the hell she was talking about. She's talking about Peb's mom. Yeah. Yeah, I think I got everybody in here. Let's see, Susanna, and then wasn't Carol. Oh, yeah, hold on. Did I get Sleuth and Sandals? Let me just make sure. I don't think so. I think I missed that one. Let me get that one in there. Sleuth and Sandals. And then, how about, I think I got Patty. Yeah, there she is. Okay, and then the one before that would be, yeah, Nikki, and then, yep, and then Carolina T's in there. Okay, good. Everything's good here. Yeah, that was funny. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's hey Godsey, that's not going to work very well with the wrong face in there. Yeah, because everyone knows what my account looks like. Dang, you blew it, man. You blew it. Had to work harder on that one. All right, guys, and by the way, thank you very much. Troll, you've really helped my channel out a lot. As a matter of fact, I don't think I've got more subs than I've ever got since you started doing the trolling. It's amazing. Thank you. And thank you to all the subs out there. Yeah. Yeah. Norman the winner, and you know, he's actually mentally ill. That's what his problem is. He can't get off of what he's doing. He gets so focused on something, but that's okay. Sometimes mentally ill people just, they don't have any other things to do. He sends me emails, he sends, he just does all these things, but it just doesn't bother me. I just keep track of it. It all goes into a folder. It's all being turned in to the right people. Yeah. Okay, here we go. Here we go. All right, so thank you to Kathy Friedenmaker, Lane S., Allie Cake, Barbara Ann, Your Gypsy, Alice Patak, Linda Howe, Your Gypsy, Eugenie, The Velvet Army, Rhea Mazarone, Candalee Woodward Stone, Pebs W, Kathy Friedenmaker, Pebs W again, Allie Cake, Rhea Mazarone, Tamara Court, and then Quietly Frozen with a ridiculously generous quadruple cat eye donation. And then K-Dog, Jessica Schubach, Tina Susser, Jessica Schubach again, Carolina T, Nikki 124, Patty Barnett, and Sleuthin' Sandals. Awesome. Then on the PayPal, we've got Stacy Millisey with a very generous PayPal, and we've got Just a Friend and Miss Angels. Thank you guys very much for your support. Very cool. Oh, and there's Amy's Justice League. Awesome. Very cool. Chewbacca.
I'll be Chewbacca if you want me to.
Why? Because of I love you all.
Now, here's what we'll do tonight. We're going to do an everything mug, and then we'll also do the Freak Heart mug, the one but it has my sketch on the one side. All right. I know. At least it's 2 mugs, though. Or we could, well, let's see. Yeah, I think that's about it. Sound good? Awesome. Wheel. Yeah, wow. It's so full because, Quietly, I had to put so many on there for Quietly Frozen, and then also the one PayPal in there. So here we go. All right, because you get 1.5 on. Oh, is that a new one there? Brown-eyed girl right at the end. All right, hold on, let me get that in there. Oh, jeez, that doesn't count. Skip over to someone else. Ah, to get it off of there. Nobody gets to know. Because I wasn't meaning to spin it. I was trying to put Brown-Eyed Girl in there. So hold on. God, why would it do that? Huh. Very weird. All right. All right. Shuffle. Well, I know your screen was black because I didn't want you to see who won that one. Because it wasn't a spin, it was trying to put a name in there. All right, so here it is. This is for the everything mug right now. Here we go. Oh, and she wants me to respin it. All right. So I'm going to remove all of hers, and Quietly Frozen wanted me to spin it again. All right, so I'm going to shuffle again. So this is still for the everything mug right now. Wait a minute, what happened right there? Wow, that's oh God. Oh, I don't even know what to do on that one. Let me show you. I don't mean, can you even see? Look at what happened here. Is I combined two of them. Should I just respin it or what? I mean, it landed on. But see, look at what happened there. They went Kathy Friedenmaker and Stacy at the same time. Are those just the two winners or what? I mean, that's kind of weird. I don't know how that happened, but like, how did that happen? What? Where is that one? Oh yeah, no, that's not it. No, there it is right there. It's supposed to be like this. Oops, no, it was like that. Is that just a foul ball, you think? Do it again. I'm not going to break the mug up, so. All right, we're just going to have to spin it again, unfortunately. Although Stacy's name was first on there, so that would have landed on that one. Because Friedenmaker would have been next. See how it's next on the board right there? So we're going to have to make, Stacy wins that one. Because in reality, that would have landed on the exact same one. And Friedenmaker was on the next one. So, okay, so everything mug goes to Stacy Millicy. And now we're going to go for the what was it called again? The free cart mug that has my sketch on them one side. All right. Shuffle, shuffle, shuffle. Ding, 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 ding. Here we go. Just a friend. All right. Well, there you go. There you go. Oh, and then are you still out there, Carolina T? Send me an email. Oh shit. All right, you guys. Very cool, very cool. And yeah, thank you guys for all the support on the channel. Well, I'll tell you in the email, Carolina T. Jeez, man, my God. Yeah. All right, guys. We will see you guys tomorrow. Really appreciate the support. Thank you for showing up and being here, watching the show, even on random, cases that nobody else really talks about. I know it doesn't, it's like, oh, wow, yeah, I wanted to keep talking about this one over and over and over. But I like to move on, I actually get I feel like nervous when people want to keep talking about the same ones over and over and over again. Because in my mind, I'm thinking, man, there's something probably really interesting out there that we could be talking about and digging through right now, but we're going to keep doing this one. So, all right, you guys, we will see you guys tomorrow. And, as I always say, everybody, until next time, be safe out there. And a 2 and a 3 and a... Yeah, I've been doing this true crime thing for quite a while now. And during this whole time, I have not seen one person.
You agree? Then I agree.
Crime dissector. All right, quietly certified human lie detector. Gonna get ya on a stretcher if you try and play me like an old projector. Crime sector is my nectar. Professor Gregel's gonna give another lecture. Crime collector, freak connector, and I'm always gonna be a paw protector. Fool deflector, interceptor, and I'm meaner than a spectre with a vector. Inspector, with all respect, y'all. Just remember, I'm a fucking check, y'all. I have no agenda.
I'm a bartender.
And I'll serve it to you straight without the blender. And in the end, I'm gonna send ya on a mission to reveal the true offender.
Yeah, so I'll just get right back to work. All right, everybody? Talk to you.
Do you believe in magic?
It's a house.
Huh?
Hey, Gray, that was really funny.
Yeah, I know. Oh, jeez, Mary Lou. God. All right, we'll see you guys tomorrow. And, yes, be safe out there.
Yeah, be safe out there, everybody.
Well, thanks, Mary Lou. That was very kind of you.
I know, Gray. I'm a very kind person.
Oh, boy. Boom.
Huh?